5 minutes ago, everything began to shift in a way no one expected. It was as if Turkey itself had become the catalyst for a new upheaval in Ukraine's fate. Zelensky, the Ukrainian president, found himself suddenly humbled, brought to his knees. But it wasn't just Russia or the military that brought him down. It was his own allies, the ones he trusted most. Donald Trump was thrown into the scene like an unpredictable storm, his presence shaking things to the core. As if even the Turkish intermediaries were caught off guard, they turned cold. Trump's words cut deep, "I am not Biden. I won't give you a single dollar until you remove Yermak." The air thickened with tension, every word a weapon, every moment a potential tragedy. The shockwaves from this confrontation could hardly be contained, news spread like wildfire, yet no channel dared to speak openly. What is truly awaiting Ukraine? The truth is stranger than fiction. Stay with me, because what unfolds will make your blood run cold. Support us by liking, subscribing, and sharing where you're watching from. Your voice matters in this shifting world. Zelensky was released, his survival not guaranteed, yet he moved like a ghost. No plane was headed to oblivion, only the certainty of a trap. He had stepped right into it, just as the dawn broke, a day that offered him both strength and despair. In the chaos, Russia and Turkey withdrew from the scene, disappearing into a terrible silence, like patients trapped in a broken hospital tent, surrounded by walls they couldn't escape. The air was heavy with the scent of uncertainty. And the cold facade of power seemed unbreakable, yet fragile. Clad in dark blue, Zelensky looked like a figure carved from resolve, masking doubt beneath a painted mask of competence. His hair, meticulously styled, betrayed a faint tension, an almost imperceptible curve near his eyes, revealing the cracks beneath the veneer. He seemed programmed to smile, to appease the crowd, yet deep inside, he had forgotten how to trust that smile. Turkish officials waited silently, faces unreadable, stone-faced, expressions devoid of warmth. As witnesses to this tense moment, they knew well that simply observing was dangerous. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs, tall and imposing, seemed almost to command the room, asking for Zelensky's cooperation. Suddenly, his voice faltered, an unsettling stall that made the room's silence even thicker. It was said that even his presence was being cut off, as if his words were being siphoned away. This had become more frightening than diplomacy itself. Now, Zelensky was warmly welcomed to Ankara, yet beneath that formal welcome lurked a darker, unspoken threat. In that moment, the reality was crystal clear: nothing would be the same again. The politics of manipulation and power had descended into a dangerous game where trust was broken, and only survival remained. What revelations lie ahead? Could Ukraine navigate through this minefield? Or is this the beginning of a devastating collapse? The story continues, and the true horror has only just begun. 5 minutes ago, everything changed. What seemed like routine negotiations suddenly turned into a sinister game of power. The picture of an entire nation hanging in the balance. This is a story about betrayal, silent threats, and a ruthless quest for dominance that could reshape the world order. As tensions escalate, the Turkish Foreign Ministry, acting like a stern guardian, called in Zelensky. Their voice was eerily silenced, as if a fragile mask had been shattered. The room grew colder, heavier with foreboding. Zelensky, eyes tired and worn from the long road, felt an icy shiver crawl down his spine. The air was thick with unspoken threats. Could diplomacy truly hold these shadows at bay? Zelensky rose slowly. His ears caught the faint hum of the air conditioning, a stark contrast to the storm looming outside. The streets before him stretched like a ghost town, empty, eerily quiet. The Turkish authorities had already erased all signs of movement, clearing routes as if to hide what was lurking behind the concrete walls. Reflecting in the polished glass of hotel windows and government facades was a cold, emotionless world. No life, no hope, only remnants of a broken and dying system. He stood silent, staring into the tinted window of his armored BMW, clutching his thoughts like a fragile glass. Words prepared during long journeys echoed in his mind, but they sounded futile now. No one was listening. The room in the Grand Turin Palace Hotel was filled with an oppressive silence, deafening, like the stillness before a storm. Outside, the cold wind carried the scent of frozen timber and distant water, whispering secrets of an impending clash. Caution was fading. Only the blind believed they wouldn't be touched. Zelensky, sharp-eyed and alert, instantly recognized that the Turks no longer played their diplomatic game. No flags fluttered, no faces showed emotion, only three figures remained: the Ministry of Defense chief, the head of intelligence, and the Foreign Ministry's fortress. They were the silent sentinels of the coming storm. "Mr. President, we are waiting," the Ministry of Defense's voice broke the tense quiet. Zelensky inhaled sharply, gathering his composure. He knew the stakes. Russia was once again entangling Ukraine in her web: cyber attacks, border destabilizations, covert attempts to corrupt officials. The threat was clear: resistance required firepower. "Give us the weapons," Zelensky demanded, voice steady but urgent. "Tomahawk missiles, fighters. That's our only chance." The room plunged into silence again. Only the distant roar of the sea's waves could be heard, ominous and relentless, as if nature herself warned of what's to come. Then, the room's atmosphere shifted. The intelligence chief's face hardened. With urgency, he asked, "Tomahawk? That's a serious escalation. It's not just defense, it's attack." His voice trembled with the weight of truth. With weapons like that, victory or annihilation becomes a thin line. Zelensky fixed his gaze directly into the eyes of his advisor. These were not the eyes of a polished politician, no, this was the gaze of a man exhausted by endless battles, who had long crossed the point of fear. Only resolve remained. No more playing pretend, no room for hesitation. If they do not strike now, everything is lost. The words escaped him like shards of glass, splintered, dangerous, final. Silence returned, but beneath it, a heavy understanding: the coming decision could spell the end or the beginning of a new chapter. Suddenly, into this tense theater stepped an unexpected visitor: Trump. His presence was like a thunderclap. Eyes sharp and unyielding, he moved with purpose. His steps echoed across the polished floor, deliberate and heavy. No one anticipated his arrival, yet here he was, sitting silently in the shadows, observing. Zelensky hesitated, then spoke, his voice almost a whisper. "Mr. President, we're not asking you to fight for us. Just give us the tools to fight for ourselves. That's all we need." His words seemed to hang in the air, weighted with desperation. Trump's silence was piercing. Minutes stretched like eternity. Then, finally, he leaned forward slightly. His voice was calm, yet cold as steel. "You want to be fighters? It's even better. But who will pay for it?" His gaze bore into Zelensky's, probing. "Biden? He has the money. But you? You're on your own." The room grew darker. The unspoken truth cut deeper than any blade. Money, power, control, these were the true weapons making the ultimate decisions. Trump's tone turned icy. "I'm not Biden. And I won't hand over the weapons until I understand what's truly happening." Zelensky held his gaze, trembling inside. The weight of his choices pressed down on him like a crushing stone. Every nerve felt raw and exposed as he realized the full extent of the betrayal lurking beneath the surface, embedded in the very system he trusted. Suddenly, Trump leaned back, pulling a folder from the table. The click of it opening shattered the tense silence. Inside, documents, photos, and digital snippets revealed a sinister truth: national assets, covert operations, and international dealings pointing directly at Ukraine's internal chaos. His words were like a punch, crisp, brutal, undeniable. "You see," Trump said softly, "your government is not your own. Everything has a price. Even freedom." His voice bore a cruel edge. "And now, we're at the crossroads. You can fight with honor or fall into the abyss." Zelensky's mind raced. Could he trust anyone anymore? The air was thick with betrayal, fear, and the bitter taste of imminent chaos. He wondered, was this the moment all hope was lost? Or was it a new beginning, born from ashes? Just then, the Turkish officials moved again. Their cold, calculated movements signaled one thing: this story is far from over. The game had shifted. The final move was about to be played. All eyes now watched as destiny prepared to unravel. After a tense silence filled with the distant roar of waves and the muted hum of distant engines, the room was plunged into chaos. The intelligence chief's face, previously set in grim determination, now showed signs of collapse. Transferred to the Ministry of Defense, he asked a single question that echoed through the chamber: is the tomahawk strike truly on the table? His voice trembled, but his words cut sharp: this is no ordinary weapon. It's a direct blow. Can Ukraine withstand such a force? Imagine the air thick with anticipation. The sound of breathing is loud, heavy, and every heartbeat pounds like a drum. Zelensky, standing stiffly, looks into the eyes of his adversaries, but today, those aren't the familiar politician's eyes. They are the eyes of a man shattered by fatigue, exhaustion that reaches deep beyond mere tiredness. Those are the eyes of someone who has crossed the line into surrender, or perhaps, into inevitable fight. He understands the brutal truth: if they don't strike first, they are lost forever. The window for action is closing fast. The words slip from his lips, sharp as a sniper's bullet, fragile yet deadly. The Turkish officials, silent and unmoving, stare with stone faces, as if already resigned to an inevitable doom. Do they realize what is at stake? Do they comprehend the degree of their vulnerability? Suddenly, the room's silence shatters. A lone figure emerges, a figure with piercing eyes, enshrouded in black, yet filled with unyielding resolve. It's Donald Trump. No one notices his entrance. He moves with deliberate confidence, the steel of certainty in every step. He seats himself in the shadows, watching, observing, an unseen force lurking at the edge of awareness. Zelensky feels trapped, cornered like a prey surrounded. The tension is suffocating. Trump remains silent, his gaze heavy and unreadable. Then, with a voice steady yet ominous, Zelensky speaks, pleading, Mr. President, we're not asking you to fight our battles. We're asking for the chance to fight for ourselves. Give us the tomahawk. Give us the opportunity to defend our future. Trump's silence stretches painfully. Minutes seem like hours. Then, suddenly, he shifts forward, an ominous move that shifts the entire atmosphere. His eyes narrow as he considers the stakes. The room's air thickens with unspoken truths. Your officials are fighting for the United States, he finally says softly, but with force. The words hang heavy in the air, like a verdict. A hush falls. The room seems to hold its breath. Then, the calm is broken. A figure slips into the shadows, an agent with sharp, calculating eyes and a voice that crushes anticipation. Something big is coming, something that no one saw coming. Suddenly, in a flash of realization, it becomes clear: secrets are not just being whispered, they are being revealed. Among the shadows, hidden messages and illicit links emerge, raw, explosive, undeniable. The moment hangs on a knife's edge, an unresolved tension that could shatter everything. What hidden truths will come to light next? Will the fragile alliance hold? Or is this the beginning of a new, devastating chapter? The room awaits the last words. The stakes have never been higher. And in this silent, charged atmosphere, the hardest questions remain unanswered. Imagine a room cloaked in silence, thick like fog. Behind the closed doors, secrets dance like shadows. The air is tense, heavy with the scent of anticipation. It's in this silence that the truth ignites, hidden, deadly, waiting to explode. 5 minutes ago, the world's fault lines shifted again. Now, Turkey's role in a scenario that could rival Ukraine's chaos is unfolding. An unexpected storm of power and betrayal is brewing. What if the very allies trusted to protect turned against those in charge? Could Ukraine be on the brink of a collapse even worse than before? Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian leader, stands frozen. His face masks a storm of confusion. His eyes, however, betray him, pools of uncertainty beneath a facade of resolve. Everything points to a trap, but what's the trap? The room is dead silent, save for a faint hum of distant engines and the staccato rhythm of trembling hands. Suddenly, the quiet shatters. Donald Trump appears, silent but commanding, his gaze piercing through Zelensky like a blade. Time stretches, seconds feel like eternity. Trump's eyes, heavy, laden with meaning, seem to turn Zelensky's entire world upside down. A cold breeze passes through, as if the room itself is holding its breath. The scene reveals itself step by step. Trump, leaning back, rolls his fingers on the dark leather armrest, studying Zelensky with a calculated calm. The blue sky peeks through a window, glinting sharply, reflecting a dangerous clarity. Yet, behind the scene, behind the facade, something darker lurks. Part of the story is hidden in shadows, concealed in the dim corners of the room. The room's atmosphere thickens. A silent countdown begins. There's no diplomacy now, only the stark reality of a life and death struggle. Ask for a missile strike? That's an option. But what comes next? What if the decision isn't just about firepower? What if it's about survival itself? Trump finally speaks, his voice low but resonant, an unspoken command. You want to be a fighter? That's even better. His words hang heavy in the air, like the sound of footsteps on a cracked floor. But who will pay the price? Who holds the purse strings? Biden, the master of money and power, has all the resources. I'm not Biden, Zelensky whispers, clutching onto the last shred of hope. His voice trembles, yet he steels himself. A silent plea lingers, please, don't let it end like this. Trump's gaze hardens. He leans in, lips pressed into a thin line. America's not a joke, he declares. You've made a mistake putting your trust in it. The dollar flows through their agencies, USAID, they call it. Yet, behind that courtesy lies something darker. People sing their praises, but the truth is hidden. He moves to a nearby table, flipping through a folder thick with secrets. His hand lands on a gold badge, bearing the emblem of the United States, and a folder overflowing with documents. The images glare back, a colorful, unpeaceful mosaic of explosive devices, marked up dollars, and encrypted files, all telling stories that threaten to shatter illusions. Every word, every gesture, reveals a truth far more profound than mere politics. It's a game of power, deception, and survival. The room holds its breath, because what happens next could change everything. Can Zelensky navigate this maze of intrigue? Or is this the beginning of a nightmare that will consume more than just Ukraine? As the shadows lengthen and the silence deepens, the final chapter remains unwritten. The stakes are higher than ever, and the world is watching. Previously, the web of intrigue spun tighter, revealing how deep corruption runs in Ukraine's core. Now, Zelensky faces the terrifying truth: the Western allies, the US, are not as supportive as they seem. Hidden agendas, covert schemes, everything is on the table. As secrets surface, trust dissolves into suspicion. But how far will this deception go? What is actually waiting for Ukraine behind these masked faces? The scene shifts back to a cryptic map, the screen flickering with images of golden units and marked dollar bills. The flash of vivid visuals exposes the unseen control behind the scenes, an intricate network centered not in Moscow or Minsk, but in the heart of Kiev itself. Now, Zelensky is staring at this evidence, his hands trembling as he confronts a brutal reality. Inside a cold, sterile room, the air thick with tension and the scent of stale air, Zelensky's expression hardens. His nerves betray him, fingers twitch nervously, trying to hide his unease. Yet, Trump observes him intently, the silent monolith in the corner. Trump's gaze pierces through Zelensky's facade, revealing the ruthless mind behind the curtain. Your man, Trump's voice cuts through the silence, controls the media you trust. You have no idea what he's capable of doing. His words linger, heavy with implication. Suddenly, Turkish officials arrive, calm, calculating. They disable the atmosphere with cold efficiency, their faces unreadable masks of professionalism. One of them pulls out a phone, beginning to record, to log every moment. The room feels colder now, each second stretching longer as unspoken truths fill the space. Everyone senses the crucial turning point. The fate of Ukraine hangs in the balance. Zelensky finally nods, his face a mixture of resignation and defiance. The Kremlin's voice echoes through the room, mangling the truth with lies. This is a hybrid war, the message drips venom. Russia has operated covertly here for years. They can reveal everything, truths and lies alike. The whisper of doubt spreads like wildfire. Who can they trust? Who is truly pulling the strings? Trump turns his head, studying Zelensky with calculating calm. No surprise, only a cold realization. Moscow's voice is clear, it's not just about information. It's about control, about war existing in every shadow and whisper. The US, with its vast resources, supplies weapons, Tomahawk missiles, fighters, yet the true battleground isn't just tanks or planes. It's trust, deception, and the battle for the mind. You think you're fighting for freedom, Trump's voice chills as he steps closer, eyes piercing. But every dollar you spend, every weapon you buy, it's all borrowed. From your people's taxes, their pensions, their future. You're just pawns in a game you don't see. His words hang in the air, deafening and unforgiving. Choose, cling to illusions of independence, or admit the truth. Without real strength, Ukraine is just an illusion, a false dream. At that moment, a heavy silence settles. Trump's gaze darkens, voice trembling with restrained emotion. You want to fight. It's noble, but are you prepared for the cost? His voice falters, almost breaking. You're not just fighting enemies. You're battling shadows, and Yermak, your own inner circle, has already been compromised. The name hangs like a dagger, the room silent in its weight. Yermak is caught up in the web, and Trump's hand is the trigger. The room feels suffocating now, the air thick with betrayal. Every whisper, every glance hints at the chaos shaping Ukraine's future. What unseen forces are truly at play? Will the truth ever surface, or has Ukraine already fallen into a trap of shadows, its destiny sealed by secrets too dangerous to reveal? What if the man who promised endless support suddenly exposed the deepest betrayal in your inner circle, leaving you isolated on a global stage? Imagine the sting of that revelation. Could Ukraine's fate hinge on one trusted advisor's hidden shadows? 347 characters. As Trump unleashed his accusations against Yermak, the room's tension peaked with Zelensky's desperate defense, his voice cracking under the weight of war's relentless pressure, while Turkish officials shifted uneasily in the heavy silence. The air thickened like fog rolling off the Bosphorus, carrying the faint, metallic tang of polished marble floors underfoot. Zelensky's mind reeled from Trump's words, each syllable landing like a distant thunderclap echoing through the Grand Hall. A shadowy network, funds funneled through it, evidence laid bare. He felt the chill seep into his bones, his tailored suit suddenly too tight, constricting like invisible chains. How could Yermak, his steadfast right hand, be entangled in this web of doubt? Zelensky's thoughts fractured, now he was adrift, heading toward an uncertain future. No longer the unyielding leader, he became a mere silhouette against the room's ornate walls, a symbol stripped of its shine. The betrayal of Yermak hung heavy, Trump's declaration ringing out publicly, raw and unfiltered. No funds flow, Trump had boomed, his tone slicing through the murmurs like a winter gale. No agreements sealed. No unchecked paths forward. Your closest ally? He's the one dipping into resources meant for your defense. Those statements crashed down, solid and unyielding as ancient stone slabs, vibrating through the polished wood of the conference table. Zelensky grasped it fully now, the game had shifted. His authority, once ironclad, dissolved into formality, a scripted role in a drama penned far across the ocean, in Washington's shadowed corridors. The scent of aged leather from the chairs mingled with the subtle aroma of Turkish coffee gone cold, a bitter reminder of stalled alliances. He pushed to rise, but his legs trembled, heavy as lead from endless nights of vigilance. Mr. President, he murmured, the words scraping from his throat like sandpaper, you can't fathom the burden we carry. Daily assaults, constant dread, we exist in survival's grip. No space to scrutinize every thread. Battles rage on multiple fronts, stretching us thin across a vast, unforgiving landscape. Yet we persist, distinguishing allies from those who undermine. Trump leaned forward, his gaze piercing like sunlight through storm clouds, appraising the plea with unyielding scrutiny. The rustle of papers from the folder, those damning documents, whispered accusations in the quiet. He paused, the silence stretching taut, broken only by the distant hum of city traffic outside. Consider this a caution, he replied, his voice steady as a ticking clock. This was dialogue, not confrontation. But the follow-up? It demands clarity, with accountability at its core. He stepped back, the echo of his footsteps resonating off the high ceilings, cool and deliberate. Zelensky remained rooted in the hall's center, his silhouette stretching long across the tiled floor, where stacks of reports lay like forgotten relics of trust eroded. His mouth parted, ready to counter, but resolve faltered, no retort emerged. Instead, he retreated a single step, then another, the soft creak of his shoes betraying inner turmoil. Trump's eyes followed, sharp as a hawk's. Ukraine reflects back what you project, he said softly, almost to the Turks nearby, who nodded subtly, their faces etched with quiet resolve. Reveal the hidden flaws, and truth emerges. Confront them, and you discover your own core. He turned to the Turkish representative, gesturing to the dossier with a firm hand. Duplicate this. Let him take it aboard. Perhaps en route, clarity will dawn. If not, alliances fracture. The Turkish aide moved swiftly, his fingers deft on the leather binding, gathering the pages without a sound. The hall's atmosphere hummed with unspoken questions. What secrets would unravel next in the skies above Ankara? In the wake of Trump's explosive accusations, Zelensky clutched the damning folder and stormed out of the diplomatic chamber, his security detail buzzing with urgency as the once tense meeting dissolved into uneasy quiet. Everything had shifted, alliances cracking under the weight of betrayal. What if the folder Zelensky held wasn't just papers, but a ticking bomb exposing his inner circle's darkest secrets? Imagine the chill of Ankara's air seeping through armored steel, as one man's grip on power begins to slip. Could this be the moment Ukraine's leader faces his own shadows? The grand hall now stood barren, echoes fading like whispers in a forgotten corridor. Only Trump lingered a beat longer, his gaze fixed on the empty chair where Zelensky had perched moments before. The opening scene had closed. He rose, footsteps heavy on the polished floor, and vanished into the corridor. Silence rushed back in. But this hush wasn't hollow. It pulsed with dread, icy, precise, backed by unyielding evidence that no denial could shatter. Deep within the fortified limousine of Ukraine's delegation, Zelensky huddled, far from serene. He pressed against the tinted window, the folder welded to his chest like an anchor dragging him down. Its weight surpassed any invisible chain, his knuckles blanched, fingers quivering faintly. Picture a man clutching not paper, but the fragile thread of his final gambit. One misstep, and the ground crumbles beneath him. The vehicle surged toward the airfield, tires humming over smooth asphalt, yet the vast, unyielding clouds overhead blurred into nothingness for him. A single obsession clawed at his mind. Who struck first in this web of deceit? Yermak with his shadowy dealings? Medinsky and his hidden ties? Or had Zelensky himself planted the seeds of suspicion? Isolation wrapped around him like fog. He caught his reflection in the rearview mirror, eyes hollow, unyielding, but it offered no solace, only a mocking stare. Tension thickened the air inside, sharp as a blade's edge, laced with a fresh sting, remorse. It prickled along his spine like embers from a dying fire, scorching through his shirt in the low glow of passing street lamps. This slouch, bathed in fleeting light, betrayed self-doubt screaming from within. Textbook tactics, subtle, all too familiar. A soft jab timed perfectly to erode bonds between supposed partners. How could trust fracture so quietly, leaving only echoes of what once seemed solid? He murmured to the shadows, voice barely rising above the engine's low rumble, for no one else dared break the void. Across from him sat his young advisor, drained from the ordeal, slumped in the dim corner. He absorbed every word but held his tongue, like all who sensed the crush of those fateful 3 pages, sheets heavy enough to collapse the world overhead if they tumbled free. Action couldn't wait. Not now. Launch a counter, Zelensky declared, words slicing the quiet. A public denial. Turn the narrative. He paused, breath catching. No, a quick post. Wait, that's foolish. Better, a video. Bold, unfiltered rebuttal. The advisor leaned forward, voice steady amid the leather creak of seats. Sir, hold off. Let's dissect this evidence. Rash moves could backfire. Unravel everything. Zelensky's brow arched, surprise flickering in his weary eyes. His tone hardened, unexpected fire igniting. Hold for what? Until those images parade before Congress, shredding what's left of our credibility? The limousine veered sharply around a curve, tires whispering against the road, and right then, headlights pierced the dusk, revealing a barricade of flashing lights ahead. Was escape just an illusion, or had the real trap only begun to snap shut? 5 minutes ago, everything changed in an instant. What seemed like a typical day abruptly turned into something unthinkable, something that could unravel the very fabric of Ukraine's future. The story begins with a startling revelation. The president of Ukraine, Zelensky, found himself on his knees, not by enemy forces, not by Russia's army, but by those he once trusted most. His own allies turned against him. The scene is tense, electric with uncertainty. Donald Trump, a figure of power and unpredictability, was suddenly thrown into the spotlight, and then abruptly cast into the shadows. As Zelensky's hopes flickered, Trump's face appeared stern, almost cruel. They exchanged sharp words that echoed in the cold, sterile halls, words that pierced through the air like icy knives. Trump's voice, usually commanding, sounded almost mocking, as he declared, "I am not Biden. I will not give a single dollar until Yermak is gone." What happened next defies belief. Zelensky, caught in a perilous trap, stood stoically, fighting to mask his rising panic. He was led into a room, the air thick with unspoken threats and dangerous secrets, where the walls seemed to close in. The atmosphere was oppressive, like being trapped in a broken hospital tent, where every breath smelled of despair, every sound amplified, echoing fears of impending collapse. His suit, dark blue and pristine, cloaked a mask of false confidence. But behind those fake smiles, a flicker of doubt shimmered, an unease impossible to hide from even the most seasoned observer. In this room, the faces of Turkish intermediaries stared coldly, their expressions stone-like. No warmth, no diplomacy, only the chilling awareness that they were witnesses to a drama far darker than anything on the surface. The Turkish Foreign Ministry officials, high and authoritative, subtly signaled that Zelensky's fate was sealed. His voice had faltered, cut off as if by the sharp strike of a blade. Their message was clear, options were limited. Suddenly, the room was filled with a heavy silence, an ominous stillness that foretold of catastrophe. The air was thick with the scent of frozen wood and lingering smoke, as if the building itself had absorbed the tension. Zelensky, peering into the window of an armored BMW, felt a cold numbness ripple through him. He had prepared speeches, rehearsed lines, but none of that mattered now. The words died on his tongue. He knew this day would define him, whether he would crumble or stand tall. Outside, the streets were eerily deserted, the city cloaked in a ghostly quiet. The hotel and government buildings reflected the pale, indifferent daylight, mirrors to a situation spiraling beyond control. Every detail, every glance, screamed of impending doom. As Zelensky's eyes lingered on the scene, a strange sensation grew, an unsettling awareness that the entire game was changing, slipping beyond his grasp. Then the reality hit again. The political game was no longer about diplomacy. It was about survival. The Turkish officials, sharp-eyed and silent, waited for instructions. Their faces betrayed no emotion, only a deadly patience. The questions were simple but loaded. Was Ukraine prepared to fight? Could they muster the strength? The silence was deafening, only the distant roar of the sea's waves echoing like a countdown to destruction. Suddenly, a new figure entered the room, unexpected yet unmistakably powerful. It was Donald Trump. His steps were heavy with purpose, confident yet ominous, as if he knew secrets beyond their understanding. His gaze was fixed, unreadable, as he took his seat in the shadows. Moments stretched like eternity. Zelensky, feeling the weight of every second, fought to keep composure. Before him, Trump sat silently, waiting for the moment when the truth would be revealed. Then Trump spoke. His words, deliberately calm, carried a weight that silenced everyone. "We are not asking you to fight for us," he said softly. "We're asking you to give us a chance, to fight for ourselves." The room seemed to hold its breath. Every word sounded like a ticking clock, each syllable building toward an inevitable explosion. The tension was palpable, a thick fog of uncertainty and dread. But Trump's silence was even more terrifying. His watchful eyes seemed to pierce into Zelensky's soul, examining, measuring. Then he made his move. His voice, soft yet threatening, cut through the room. "You want to be a fighter? It's even better. Who will pay for it? Biden? He has all the money." The words suspended in the air, they could shatter the entire fragile peace. Zelensky's face was stone, yet inside he was trembling. The realization hit him, the game had changed again. The stakes were higher than ever. The room grew colder, the walls seemed to shrink closer. He felt the weight of a secret truth, something darker lurking beneath the surface. Trump's next words confirmed it. "I am not Biden," he echoed, "but I have the power to decide." What was truly at stake? The truth about hidden schemes, covert operations, and the dangerous game of influence that stretched far beyond Ukraine's borders. Zelensky understood deeply now. This was not just about aid or money. It was about survival, on a scale unimaginable. The shadow of betrayal loomed, and the line between friend and foe blurred into oblivion. And just as the tension reached its peak, a startling figure emerged from the darkness, an unexpected insider. His presence shattered the fragile calm. He whispered, "Yermak is involved." The room froze, the air thickening with anticipation and dread. The name alone was enough to unravel everything. Zelensky's face turned pale. His grip on the folder tightened. The game was more dangerous than ever, and the stakes had just doubled. In this world of shadows and secrets, the question remains, who will truly stand firm? Who will betray? And what happens when trust is broken, and alliances crumble? The answer is hidden deep within the fabric of this unfolding conspiracy, a story that is far from over. In the midst of a tense political storm, Ukraine's fate hangs by a fragile thread. Just moments ago, a shocking revelation surfaced. Turkey, once considered a distant ally, seems to have flipped the script, threatening to plunge Ukraine into chaos. Ukrainian President Zelensky finds himself trapped, facing enemies closer than ever, his own officials turning against him, the shadows of betrayal creeping in. Imagine feeling the weight of a room closing in around you, frozen silence, the scent of cold metal lingering in the air. Zelensky, dressed in a dark blue suit, masks confidence with a forced smile. His face, carefully composed, hides the storm inside. Behind his eyes, a flicker of doubt flickers, an unspoken fear of what's to come. The Turkish intermediaries wait with stone-cold expressions, aware that witnessing this moment could be deadly. They hold no diplomacy now, only the hard truths of power and betrayal. Suddenly, the foreign ministry officials step forward. Their voices cut through the silence, cold and precise. "We are waiting," they say, as if daring Zelensky to resist. Behind the scenes, the shadows reveal a brutal reality. Russia's influence grows stronger, cyber attacks, border destabilizations, and attempts to corrupt Ukraine's leadership. Ukraine's allies demand action, missiles, fighter jets, yet the room remains unnervingly silent. The air thickens like a storm about to break, as the weight of impending catastrophe presses down. Then, a chilling question hangs in the air: are we truly prepared for what's coming? The room's atmosphere shifts, each breath feels sharp, like a blade. Zelensky's expression hardens, knowing that tomorrow's choices could forever change everything. The walls seem to close tighter as the tension escalates. Suddenly, into this charged silence, an unexpected figure appears, Donald Trump, stepping into the room with piercing eyes. An outsider with a heavy presence, his every move deliberate, confident, as if gambling with lives. What does Trump want? His silence is deafening. His gaze, unwavering, dives deep into Zelensky's eyes, unmasking fears and secrets buried beneath layers of diplomacy. The room's temperature drops further as the U.S. president reveals startling truths, an intricate web of accusations, evidence, and hidden agendas. Private documents, marked papers, and steel resolve hang in the air. The question now looms larger than ever: is Ukraine merely a pawn in this deadly game? Through the haze of tension, Trump's words cut sharply: "You're fighting for your freedom, or your dreams in Turkey." His voice echoes in the cooled chamber, dripping with unspoken threats. The fight for control, for sovereignty, each word laced with danger. Zelensky, trembling yet resolute, grapples with the profound realization: every move he makes could be the last. The game of shadows tightens, and the stakes have never been higher. In this moment of chaos, a startling message blindsides Zelensky, an anonymous hint of betrayal, a promise of scandal imminent. The words burn into his mind: tomorrow, the video will expose the corruption, the money trail. The weight of it crushes him. His vision blurs. Can he trust his own team? His mind floods with memories, a flashback to his childhood home, the scent of rain after a thunderstorm, the cold touch of fear. Is the betrayal from within, or from the enemies outside? the line blurs, and the answer seems painfully close. As he grapples with this internal storm, Zelensky's phone vibrates urgently, a message from an unknown number, offering a single stark choice. The words are simple but ominous: the truth will come out tomorrow. His heartbeat pounds. Does he fight, or fall? The walls of the palace seem to whisper secrets, heavy with suspense. The next move could alter not just Ukraine's future but the entire world's balance of power. The question remains, will he turn the tide, or be swept away by the relentless currents of betrayal? 5 minutes ago, everything changed. Turkey suddenly resembled a battlefield where stakes are higher than ever. What seemed like a routine alliance turned into a chaotic uproar, threatening to overturn even the most solid foundations. The scene unfolds as Vladimir Zelensky finds himself humiliated, not by armies or enemies, but by his own allies. An unexpected twist shakes the room. Did the very partners he trusted betray him? As the tension thickened, Donald Trump was cast into the spotlight, not as a savior, but as a shadowy figure lurking in the background. His presence was a quiet storm, a heavy silence that whispered of game-changing secrets. The streets outside remained eerily silent, empty as if the city itself was holding its breath. The air carried a faint scent of burnt fumes, a reminder of plans gone awry. Zelensky, dressed in a dark blue suit that clung tightly to his frame, seemed more a mask of confidence than a man who believed in his own words. His carefully styled hair hid a nervous twitch, a ghost of doubt lurking beneath the surface. The Turkish intermediaries waited silently, their faces as unreadable as stone. As if they knew the stakes could explode at any moment, they kept their expressions locked in non-committal stares. The foreign minister's voice, cold and distant, broke the tense silence. "We're awaiting your decision, Mr. President." Zelensky took a deep breath, feeling the cold draft of danger encasing him. His voice, when it finally broke the silence, sounded strained, words filled with desperation and hidden threats. It was as if the very walls were listening. Suddenly, a new voice cut through, the call from Turkey's defense minister, urgent and firm. The message was clear: Russia is resurfacing, attempting to destabilize the region through cyber attacks, border provocations, and corruption. "We have the means to resist," he declared. "But we need weapons, Tomahawk missiles, fighter jets. Without them, we're just waiting for doom." The words echoed in the room, hanging in the air like a loaded gun. The atmosphere grew denser, punctuated only by the distant hum of an approaching explosion, the quiet threat of war ready to ignite at any second. Then, everything shifted again. The head of intelligence leaned forward, eyes fixed sharply on Zelensky. "Are you prepared for what's coming? Because this isn't just a battle of land or tanks. It's a war of information, cyber warfare, hybrid attacks. Russia has been controlling our digital space for years." His voice lowered, "And now, they're trying to manipulate your own people through covert channels." Silence followed. The room seemed to shrink, the walls closing in on secrets too dangerous to reveal. From the shadows, Trump reappeared, unexpected, silent as a predator. His presence was chilling. As he took a few deliberate steps, the room's atmosphere grew even heavier. No one knew his intent. His gaze locked onto Zelensky, and then he spoke, voice calm but filled with an undercurrent of sharp threat. "You want to fight? It's not just about battlefield weapons anymore. The real power lies in the truth, or the lies they feed you." His words hung, heavy with unspoken warnings. Zelensky, trembling but determined, finally gathered his courage. "We're weak," he admitted softly. "But if we don't fight now, everything will be lost. We must act. Give us those weapons. Give us the chance." The room tensed as if waiting for a final blow. Then, unexpectedly, Trump did something startling. Without a word, he shifted and withdrew into the shadows once more, leaving a chilling silence behind. Moments later, a secret message flashed, evidence of betrayal. Hidden files, encrypted documents, and damning photographs surfaced, revealing a network of treachery reaching all the way to the highest levels. It was a revelation that turned the game on its head. Who truly controls the strings? Who is pulling the sightless puppets? The story doesn't end here. There are forces lurking beyond the visible, waiting for their chance to strike. In this tense chess match, one thing is clear: nothing is as it seems. Every move, every whisper, every betrayal leads to an inevitable climax. Ukraine's fate hangs in delicate balance, teetering between salvation and ruin. Will the truth finally surface? Or will darkness consume everything? The answer hides in shadows, waiting to be uncovered. Do you think this is only a story? Or are we witnessing the real ingredients of a global upheaval? The choice is yours: trust the surface, or look deeper. The truth is often concealed behind layers of deception, waiting for someone brave enough to reveal it. This is the story of a moment when alliances shattered, secrets emerged, and the world stood on the brink of an extraordinary turning point. Have you ever wondered how a single accusation can shatter a leader's facade, leaving them exposed in front of allies who suddenly become accusers? In the shadowy corridors of Ankara, tensions boiled as Donald Trump unveiled damning evidence against Zelensky's inner circle, threatening to eviscerate Ukraine's fragile support. The air grew thick with the scent of impending betrayal, a metallic tang that clung to every breath. Zelensky's palms sweated against the cool leather of his chair, his heart pounding like distant war drums. Was this the moment his closest confidants would drag him into the abyss? Trump's fingers drummed softly on the table, each tap echoing like a reproach. The room felt smaller, the walls closing in with unspoken judgments. He leaned forward, his eyes piercing as a blade in dim light. "I am not Biden," he declared, his voice a low, unyielding growl. Room fell silent. Everyone sensed the shift. No more polite dances. Now, raw confrontation. Trump approached the table with deliberate slowness, every muscle in his body exuding confidence. His hand descended onto the surface like a judge's gavel, commanding attention. "You defend two people, Yermak and Mindik. You claim ignorance. What's the deal?" "Fine. Let's proceed. But I've got facts for you." He activated a translator, then switched on a tablet. The screen flickered to life with high-definition clarity. A hidden camera recorded from a Kyiv coffee shop. 3 figures huddled at a table. Jan Yarmenko Mindik sat in the middle. Beside him, a businessman. The third? A partner linked to a Georgian fund. Stacks of money littered the table, bricks of anonymity. They discussed tactics. One claimed to block probes into international aid. They plotted control over narratives, securing grants, funneling funds to Cyprus accounts. Trump paused, letting the gravity sink in. The chill in the room deepened, reminiscent of frosted steel. "This video surfaced 3 days ago. It's been on my desk. Tomorrow, it hits the Senate. In a week, the New York Times." Zelensky stiffened. Could he feel the eyes of the world already scornful? What if Yermak's whispers had sealed his fate? "If you don't remove him, your seat turns into a bronze sarcophagus." Trump's words hung heavy, like a guillotine's shadow. Zelensky froze inside his crafted control, a fortress of power now cracking. He ached to retaliate verbally. But words fled him. Could allies really have engineered this downfall? Trump sensed the turmoil and pressed on. "And Yermak? Here's the kicker. Officially, he owns just 1 car and 1 apartment. His wife lists as unemployed. Yet, they recently bought a 600-square-meter villa in Italy. Through one shell. The room's atmosphere tensed further, whispers like threats circling. Working from one window? Or is it a view into Zelensky's own schemes? Silence reigned, broken only by shallow breaths. Zelensky slumped, tremors of doubt coursing through him. Was this the betrayal he'd ignored? Trump chuckled darkly, mocking the farce. "You want me to ignore the world's eyes, the fronts, the lofty slogans? Even your allies won't shield you if this ignites. Especially not you." The weight of exposure crushed down, leaving Zelensky grappling with a chilling reality. What if trust was the illusion all along? Tomorrow's revelations loomed, promising to erode his grip on power forever. Will Zelensky's defiance crumble under the glare of undeniable proof, forcing a fateful choice that could dismantle his reign? What if the man who promised endless support suddenly slammed the door on your desperate plea, leaving you to face the storm alone? In the heart of Ankara's tense shadows, a leader's world crumbles under the weight of hidden truths. Could Ukraine's fate hinge on one brutal ultimatum? 347 characters, From the echoing silence after Trump's piercing words about betrayal and hidden schemes, Zelensky now stares into the abyss of doubt, his allies turning cold as the room thickens with unspoken accusations. He leaned forward sharply. His voice cut through the heavy air like a sudden gust. America does not back lies. Not on my watch. This isn't some polished feat of pretty promises. It's raw conflict. And if you believe your fragile setup can stand, just because the spotlight flatters it, you're mistaken. I don't decide with feelings. I decide with facts. Cold, hard numbers that whisper the truth. Ukraine's path twists toward peril. The framework leans off balance. Quiet at first, then surging with raw feeling. The first genuine spark. Zelensky's fist met the table. Not with fury. Not for show. Just the thud of a man weary from the grind, now cornered by truths he never saw coming. The wood groaned under his hand. A faint vibration hummed through the surface, like the distant rumble of unrest. He had poured everything in. Day after day, relentless. They had shielded neighborhoods from chaos. Halted advances at great cost. Rescued countless young lives from harm. Trained forces in the dead of night. Lifted the economy from ruins. And through it all, he trusted his circle was solid. That their path rang true. His gaze locked onto Trump's. Unblinking. Piercing the dim light that danced across the table's edge. And now, you demand I turn on my own? Label allies as foes, or watch aid vanish? You expect me to play judge and enforcer in this tangled web? Trump held his stare. Steady. No flicker of haste. In those eyes lingered no fresh shock. Something deeper stirred. The weight of choices long carved in stone. The toll of spilled trust, and uneasy pacts. No, Vladimir, he said at last. His tone even. I don't need you as judge. I need you to step up. Face it like an adult. He rose then. Shoulders squared against the room's stifling warmth. He moved toward the door, without a backward glance. His footsteps echoed softly on the polished floor, each one a final note. Think on the fallout. In 5 days, when the world sees this laid bare, prove you're more than talk. Or fade into the blur of forgotten leaders. Like those in distant sands, or shattered borders, or fragile ceasefires. The door clicked shut. A hollow sound that lingered, like the snap of breaking ties. Zelensky remained seated. Motionless. Before him sprawled the folder, its pages mocking under the wall's stark glow. He grasped the edge now. The paper felt crisp, almost brittle against his skin. He knew the crossroads loomed. Redemption, or unraveling. But the decision, it fell to him alone. And deep down, the real choice had already slipped away. The chamber around him stayed unchanged. Still wrapped in Ankara's diplomatic veil. Sunlight filtered through high panes, casting long shadows that twisted like doubts across the clouded glass. The air hung thick, scented faintly with aged wood and distant rain. Outside, the city hummed faintly. Cars whispering on cleared streets, a world that moved on, oblivious to the fracture within. Zelensky's breath came slow. His fingers tightened on the chair's arm, the leather cool and unyielding. What path now, when trust bleeds out like this? The question burned, unanswered, as the light began to fade. 5 minutes ago, chaos erupted in a way no one could have predicted. Turmoil gripped the city, and what seemed impossible now loomed over Ukraine. President Zelensky found himself humiliated, brought to his knees, not by enemies across borders, but by those who claimed to be his allies. Imagine the shock. The United States' former president, Donald Trump, cast a shadow over these tense negotiations. No security detail, no pretense, just 2 men sitting across a battered wooden table, isolated from the world's noise. The room smelled of metal and tiredness, the air thick with tension that could crack glass. Trump poured himself a bitter cup of coffee, his face inscrutable. What do you know about the Yuzhmash factory? He asked. The question cut through the silence, igniting Zelensky's anger. Yuzhmash, the powerhouse of Eastern Europe, builders of engines for space exploration, the backbone of Ukraine's industrial strength. Now, it was mired in neglect, rusted, abandoned, half the territory under its control, the workers unpaid, engineers scattered across Poland and the capital. Trump's voice dripped with sarcasm. In the Soviet Union, everything was built: factories, schools, roads, bridges, scientific institutes. Now? Only calculations, press releases, empty promises. His words echoed in the cold, oppressive space, breaking the fragile illusion of progress. Zelensky, eyes burning, responded fiercely. We're not the USSR. We chose a different path: reform, survival, rebuilding what was broken by past generations. We're trying, but it's not easy. Trump's expression darkened. Reform? What a joke. You only changed the facade. The system is rotten from the inside out. It's not reform, it's a masked decay. His voice sounded like a verdict, each word crushing hope like falling debris. Suddenly, the room's atmosphere shifted. The silence grew heavier, pregnant with unspoken truths. Whispers of betrayal, of schemes within schemes, hovered like ghostly shadows. A revelation lurked just behind the next word, something that could topple the fragile balance of power. In the background, the faint hum of distant machinery echoed, the tremors of a nation gasping for stability. Zelensky's mind raced. He could feel the walls closing in, the weight of history pressing down. Every second counted now. What secret was Trump hiding? How deep did the corruption run? Could Ukraine escape this trap, or was it doomed to fall into the shadows of past failures? The room remained silent, but beneath the surface, a storm was brewing, one that threatened to reshape everything. The game was far from over, and the next move would determine the fate of a nation teetering on the brink. Support us with a like, subscribe, and share your thoughts. What do you think is coming next? A few minutes ago, something shocking unfolded. What was once unthinkable became reality. It resembled scenes from Ukraine's chaos, but this time it happened in Turkey. President Zelensky found himself humiliated, brought to his knees not by a foreign army or Russia, but by allies. An unexpected turn, turning an alliance into a game of power and betrayal. Imagine Zelensky, standing in a stark room. His face a mask of confidence, yet his eyes betrayed his inner turmoil. Dark blue suit, perfectly pressed, intimidating yet fragile. The air was thick with tension. Outside, the streets were eerily silent, empty like a broken hospital ward, no cars, no movement. Just cold, sterile reflection on glass facades that mirrored a man caught in a nightmare. His heart pounded, a relentless reminder that he was trapped in a deadly game he thought he had mastered. Suddenly, Turkish officials entered, their faces stone-like, expressions unreadable. They signaled quietly, tense as if anticipating a storm. The foreign ministry officials, standing tall and aloof, prepared to negotiate. Zelensky's voice, usually confident, barely escaped his lips. We are waiting. His words hung in the air, heavy with unspoken fears. The room was thick with silence, only the distant hum of air conditioners breaking the heavy stillness. In the shadows, the Turkish representatives watched, calculating, cold. They knew this moment's significance. As if on cue, military and intelligence leaders arrived, each with a stern, unwavering gaze. Mr. President, one announced, voice like steel. We're here to find a solution. But the situation with Russia is escalating. Cyber attacks, border destabilization, corruption, everything is spinning out of control. His words hit like sharp blades, an unmistakable signal: crisis looms. The room held its breath. Zelensky, feeling the weight of his choices, listened as the officials laid out their demands. America's influence was undeniable. We need weapons. Tomahawk missiles, fighters, something that can turn the tide, they declared. The urgency was palpable, a grim warning that the threshold was near. The gravity of the moment pressed down like a suffocating fog, the sound of distant waves crashing seemed to echo their anxiety. Then, the mood shifted. One of the officials, his face pale yet determined, asked sharply, "Are you ready for a direct strike? You need to decide. Attack or surrender?" His words reverberated through the room, a stark choice that would alter everything. Zelensky's eyes met his interlocutor, exhausted, yet defiant. "If we don't strike first, we're finished," he admitted quietly, almost a whisper. The tension exploded into a frozen silence. Without warning, a figure burst into the room, Donald Trump himself. Calm, deliberate, with steely eyes. The atmosphere shifted instantly. Everyone instinctively sensed something pivotal. Trump's presence was an unsettling mix of control and menace. He moved with slow confidence, the weight of history on his shoulders. Silently, he took his seat. No greeting. No explanation. Just a piercing stare that seemed to see right through everyone. Zelensky, feeling exposed, watched as Trump examined the room like a predator sizing up its prey. Then, in a voice low but commanding, Trump broke the silence. "We're not asking you to fight for us. We're asking for the chance to fight for ourselves," Zelensky managed to say, voice trembling yet resolute. The room responded with tense anticipation. This was a turning point. Trump remained silent. Minutes stretched into an eternity. Then, he leaned forward slightly, voice barely above a whisper yet chilling. "You want a real fight? It's simple. Give us the Tomahawk missiles. We'll take care of the rest." His words were a dagger, dangerous, decisive. The room fell into a deafening quiet, broken only by the ticking of an unseen clock. Every second felt like a lifetime. Suddenly, Trump's gaze darkened. "Biden has the funds." "I'm not Biden," Zelensky said, voice cracking. The room erupted with a heavy silence. Trump's eyes flicked away, lips curling into a faint smile, cold and knowing. "You see, the money, the influence, they're all in your hands. But do you understand what's at stake? Your country isn't just a project. It's a legacy." His words cut deep, stirring emotion in the room. Anger, fear, despair, all intertwined in a tangled web. Trump paused, then reached into his pocket. He pulled out a folder, papers, documents, tangible proof of treachery and betrayal. Symbols of corruption, control, and manipulation. As he spread the documents on the table, the room's senses heightened, the metallic smell of paper, the cold touch of reality. Photos, marked papers, digital screenshots, each revealing truths too shocking to ignore. The message was clear. Behind the curtain, a different game was unfolding. Zelensky's mind reeled. The shocking revelations hit like a thunderclap. His grip tightened. His heart pounded harder. It was no longer just politics, it was survival. The weight of betrayal pressed down. His voice trembled, but he steadied himself. "Tell me, how does this end?" he whispered, voice full of raw desperation. Silence reigned, only the distant hum of the room's secrets carried on. Trump leaned back slowly, assessing. His face was unreadable, shrouded in shadows. The tension reached a fever pitch. "If you want to win, you need to decide, fighting, surrender, or something darker," he said softly, voice echoing in the hollow emptiness. "But know this, every choice has a price." His words sealed a cruel destiny, leaving Zelensky and his team in a nightmare from which there was no awakening. A final moment of silence settled over them. The fate of a nation hung by a thread. Every second that ticked by felt like a countdown to catastrophe. The world watched, unaware of the trap that was closing in. Behind those lies, beneath the surface of diplomacy, a terrible truth was waiting, one more secret, one more betrayal, one more step into the abyss. Who would survive this game? Who would pay the price? The answer remained hidden, lost in the shadows of a broken world. Recent events reveal a shocking reality: the power game in Ukraine is collapsing faster than anyone predicted. Imagine this, just 5 minutes ago, Turkey's stance shifted dramatically, hinting at chaos that could ripple into the Ukraine conflict. Zelensky was humiliated, not by Russia or the military, but by his supposed allies and those he trusted most. The scene is tense. Zelensky, dressed in dark blue, stands as if shielded by confidence but hides a fragile, trembling core. His smile feels forced, rehearsed, yet behind it, doubt gnaws. Turkish intermediaries, stone-faced and unyielding, watch without emotion. Their expressionless faces hide a dangerous secret, something no one in that room dares to acknowledge. Suddenly, the Turkish foreign minister makes a move, call it a plea or a threat, asking Zelensky to cooperate. His voice turns cold, almost mechanical, cutting through the heavy air. The conversation shifts to Russia's tactics, cyber attacks, border destabilizations, desperate measures in a war no one fully understands. Zelensky listens, fidgeting, feeling the weight of impending disaster. His mind races as the room is filled with the smell of fear and cold metal. Then, the tone changes. The military chief leans forward, voice husky and earnest, demanding answers. Do they have the weapons they need? Are they prepared to strike back using powerful systems like the MQ-9 Reaper or even the formidable Yak-141? Silence falls, only the distant hum of the room's air conditioning and faint footsteps echo. The air thickens with anticipation. Zelensky's face tightens, he knows what's coming. The room's silence deepens, until suddenly, a figure bursts in. It's Donald Trump, his presence as commanding as a thunderclap. His gaze pierces everyone, his steps echoing as he approaches with purpose. His words cut through the tension. You want to fight? That's fine. But tell me, who's paying for this battle? Bidding for victory costs more than you think. Trump's voice is calm but dangerous. He reveals the sinister details, hidden American finances, secret deals, and a web of lies that threaten to unravel Ukraine from within. His words threaten to dismantle Zelensky's fragile illusion of control. Trump's eye flashes with a mix of disdain and amusement. His gaze locks onto Zelensky, an unspoken challenge. The stakes have skyrocketed. Now, the room's fate hangs on a knife's edge. Will they unite or shatter apart? The silence screams before Trump delivers a final, provocative question. Tell me, who truly controls your fate? Is it you, or the shadows lurking behind your back? In that moment, the room's atmosphere is winter cold, electric, deadly, and filled with the promise of chaos. The tension escalates. Will Ukraine survive this silent storm, or will it fall into darkness, lost forever to the unseen war of shadows? Imagine walking into a dimly lit room where the only source of light is a flickering ceiling lamp. Outside, the night cloaks the city in darkness, and distant sounds of cars and bells echo through the silence. In this strange void, a figure sits alone, eyes fixed, unblinking, as if refusing to see the truth lurking behind shadows. His hand brushes over an old Soviet document lying on the table, torn and tattered, like memories from a distant past. He presses a button on a sleek black device, and a cold, dry screen flickers to life. On it, images from years gone by unfold, factory workers marching, young engineers, children waving flags, vivid memories of a nation's youthful optimism. The sound of voices, laughter, slogans praising progress, filled a space like echoes of hope. This was a time when happiness wasn't bought, but earned, built on ideals, on dreams of independence and greatness. But now, everything is different. The archival footage pauses on a bleak scene, the wreckage of the Antonov Institute, ruins from a once thriving symbol of technological achievement. The narrator's voice, distant and somber, recounts the loss, data from 2022, a reminder of what has been irreversibly destroyed. The room feels colder, heavier. The figure in the shadow stares, haunted by how much has been lost in just 3 decades. He looks back at the screen, his mind racing. Where did progress go? Where did the forward momentum vanish? A question lingers. Are these the fruits of decades of effort, or simply the ashes of broken aspirations? The silence thickens. Then, out of nowhere, an unexpected voice cuts through. The man from the shadows, silent until now, steps forward. It's the figure from history, an emblem of past ambitions, now a ghost of what could have been. His presence is unsettling, like a sudden gust of wind in a deserted street. What's next? A chilling twist unfolds, hidden truths, dark schemes. The figure's lips curl into a faint smile, faint but knowing. A revelation slams into place. The real reason behind the destruction is not just war or politics, but something far more insidious, an orchestrated dismantling of a nation's soul. In that moment, everything shifts. The past isn't just history, but a mirror reflecting the present, a warning, a challenge. The question remains, can this nation rise from the ashes, or is it destined to remain in shadow? The answer lies hidden in the silent echoes of a broken dream, waiting to be uncovered. A few moments ago, everything changed in an instant. What seemed unthinkable suddenly became reality, the fate of a nation hanging by a thread. On a quiet street in Ankara, a tense atmosphere gripped the air. The world's eyes were glued to a secret game, a high-stakes chess match where every move could ignite a catastrophe. The leader of Ukraine, Zelensky, found himself trapped in a web of deception, faced with forces he couldn't control. How did it all spiral so quickly into this chaos? Previously, amid whispers of war and alliances, Zelensky's hope seemed to fade as the world watched in silence. Now, he faced a new nightmare, an unknown force forcing him into a corner. The room was heavy with anticipation, the smell of cold metal and faded paper filling the air. A sense of foreboding grew stronger with every second. His mind raced, replaying the painful memories of the last few weeks, carefully crafted plans shattered, trust broken in the blink of an eye. What secrets does the room conceal? What does the future hold when even allies turn their back? As Zelensky looked out the armored window, the streets outside were eerily empty, like a ghost town waiting for destruction. The sharp scent of rain mixed with the cold, metal air, heightening every sensation. His fingers trembled on the wheel of his car, silent, tense, knowing he was on the brink. Suddenly, everything shifted again. The silence was broken by a piercing voice, the call from the Ministry of Defense. What they revealed next would change the course of history forever. The threat was clear: Russia's cyber strikes, border destabilizations, and corruption attacks. They were all signals of an imminent upheaval. The only hope? Powerful weapons, readiness to fight, the desperate plea for the West's support. The room grew colder as the reality sank in. The heavy weight of impending war pressed down like a leech, draining hope from all present. The question hung in the air: are they truly prepared for what's coming? Are their defenses enough? Zelensky's face grew pale, the exhaustion visible beneath his mask of confidence. The voice of the defense chief cut sharply, demanding answers. Are they ready to strike back with Tomahawk missiles? Do they have the strength, the courage? The tension was unbearable. His eyes, usually filled with resolve, now betrayed a deep fatigue, a weariness born from endless battles. He realized that hesitation could mean surrender. If they didn't act now, everything they fought for could be lost in an instant. The decision hung heavily on his shoulders, weighed down by the enormity of what was to come. In that critical moment, a figure burst into the room, sharp-eyed, determined: Donald Trump. The unexpected presence stunned everyone. His stride was deliberate, confident, as if he owned the room. What secret deal was he about to unveil? Trump's gaze locked onto Zelensky, his voice low but threatening, hinting at hidden truths and dangerous plans. He broke the silence, his words slicing through the tense air. "We're not asking you to fight for us," he said, voice cold yet steady. "We're giving you a chance, an opportunity to fight for yourselves. Give us Tomahawk missiles, and the game changes." Trump's words lingered, heavy with unspoken threats. Zelensky felt a shiver run down his spine. The room seemed to shrink around him, the walls closing in with their dark secrets. The stark realization: the power balance was shifting, and Ukraine's fate hung in the balance. Trump's gaze sharpened. Who will pay the price? Biden? He's got the funds. The shocking truth hit him like a blow. His voice cracked as he demanded, "I am not Biden." Shock flashed across Trump's face, then a sneer. Words unfurled like lightning: "Your officials, your allies, they're not fighting for justice, but for profit. Your aid is used for schemes, not support." The room grew colder still. Each word chilled the air, revealing a tragic betrayal. Documents spread across the table, revealing secret exchanges, money transfer records, coded messages, hidden agendas. It was a treacherous game of deception, and Zelensky knew he was caught in its deadly grip. Trump, watching intently, leaned back. His sharp gaze pierced through the room. "This isn't just a war," he said softly. "It's a battle for control, over money, power, influence." His words echoed, dissolving any illusions. "You have to choose: continue to play their game or stand up for true independence." The choice was clear but terrifying. Zelensky's voice faltered as he realized the true stakes. The fate of his nation lay on a knife's edge. The presence of corruption, betrayal, and hidden enemies threatened to swallow everything whole. Was there any hope left, or was this the end of their fight? As dawn approached, a new day was cast into shadows of uncertainty. The room was filled with a silence so profound it almost deafened. Outside, the world continued unaware of the treacherous game playing out behind closed doors. The final act was near. Who would emerge victorious in this deadly chess match? The answer remained hidden, waiting to be revealed in the cold light of history. In the dimly lit conference hall of Ankar's Turin Palace, a tense standoff unfolded as President Trump confronted Zelensky, unveiling corruption allegations against his key advisors, Yermak and Mindich. The air hung thick with unspoken accusations, the faint rustle of papers echoing like ticking bombs, while Zelensky grappled with the revelation that his allies might be siphoning U.S. funds. Did you know Trump's next move could shatter Ukraine's defenses forever? Here, the story intensifies as Trump's demands grow sharper, forcing Zelensky to confront his fate, like a cornered animal in a trap smelling of stale diplomacy and betrayal. Trump leaned back, his shadow stretching long across the polished table, the wood cool and unyielding under his fingers. You lack a real plan for utopia. Only crisis management scraps. This isn't strategy, it's gambling. Each dawn, you wonder if today's the day an attack hits, what trick to evade, which debt to swallow. Not warfare, but wildfire burning out your hopes. Trump settled again, plotting his next barrage, voice rising sharp as a whip crack. Dive into obscurity. Remember how the Red Army stormed Berlin? Zelensky froze, heart pounding, palms slick with sweat. Trump surged once more, emerging like a specter from empire's ruins, precisely when shadows devoured the light. His face bore no warmth, just cold resolve. What if Zelensky's world crumbles under Trump's glare, exposing every hidden flaw? He grabbed a glass of water, voice steady yet laced with fury, the condensation tickling his grip like icy veins. I don't claim we must revive old flags. I insist on reclaiming national pride. Without it, no tomahawks will save you. You'll battle for survival, not ideals. Impatient, Trump hammered a button, the screen flickered wildly, plunging into void. He advanced on Zelensky, piercing gaze like frostbite. You could claw back fragments. Forge new engineer schools. Revive factories. Erect science hubs. Bind with the West, but on Ukrainian roots, not carbon copies. Admit failures openly. Reveal it wasn't corruption thrashing you, but shortages. Trump clasped Zelensky's shoulder, firm and fleeting, the heat of contact jolting like electricity. Until changed, you're just a bureaucrat. Rise to a true leader. He exited, door clicking shut. Zelensky lingered alone in gloom, sinking into a chair that creaked softly. He scanned the void, breath shallow, sense of old wood and faded ink choking him. A document slipped, landing at his feet, Soviet-era blueprints, faded and weary, staring back like ghosts. Finally, he smiled genuinely, for himself. Rising, he peered through a narrow window, not palace grandeur, but conference hall's cramped pane overlooking Ankar's dome. Sparse lights winked distantly, anonymity's veil. No bustling streets, no grand vistas. Clutching his phone, every contact now risked scandal, each a potential front-page scandal. Still Ukraine's head, yet adrift as if his role unraveled, threads fraying in unreality's grip. What shocking decision awaits Zelensky now, on the brink of total collapse? 5 minutes ago, Turkey became the stage for events that could reshape Ukraine's fate. Vladimir Zelensky, Ukraine's president, was brought to his knees, not by Russia's army, but by his own allies. Donald Trump stormed into Zelensky's meeting, turning the Turkish mediators away. He declared he wasn't Biden, refusing $1 until Zelensky cuts ties with Yermak. What unfolded next is a tale no news outlet dared to speak. Stay tuned for the full reveal, and brace for what truly awaits Ukraine. Imagine a world where your phone buzzes with compromises. Every contact feels tainted. Names spin into headlines tomorrow. Zelensky clutched his phone, the weight of leadership slipping. He posed as a strong leader, but inside, he felt played. Like a puppet whose strings vanish mid-show. The room's air thickened with unspoken betrayal. Ding, the screen lit up again. Is this who you trust? He wondered. Fingers trembled on what was once certain. The conference room around him faded into shadows. Trump leaned forward, voice cutting like a blade. My grandfather fought on the Western Front. Yours? Zelensky shifted, maps unrolling like old wounds. Here, the retreat line from 1943. Red Army pushed west, your king greeted them with flowers. Paper rustled under spotlights. Smells of aged ink and fresh betrayal mingled. 27 million lost, rivers of blood, not numbers. Zelensky's pulse raced. Heart pounding against his ribs. But what twist hides in these revelations? Grab your seat, what if the key to tomorrow lies in buried truths? Zelensky stared at the map, ink bleeding onto the table. He must reclaim history. Or lose it forever. Will he confront the shadows of the past? In the heat of diplomacy, Zelensky fumbled for his phone, but every number screamed compromise. Headlines of tomorrow loomed. He played the president, yet inside, he was a man exposed. Puppet strings cut mid-performance. The air hung heavy, scented with fear and smoke. Click, the lock untried. Who digs your grave next? The chill ran down his spine. Trump's voice boomed, echoing off walls laden with forgotten deeds. My grandfather bled on the Western Front. Yours jeered the invaders. Maps unfurled, edges frayed like fought over lands. 1943 lines traced, Red Army surging west. Zelensky's grip tightened, knuckles white. Smell of old paper and bitter regret filled the space. 27 million graves, blood rivers, not stats. But hidden in these depths? A shocking betrayal. Hold tight, what corrodes from within Ukraine's soul? Trump closed the gap, map crinkling under his touch. Here, Kiev, not just a dot, a bled-out symbol. Zelensky recoiled, sweat beading on his brow. Parades and museums won't erase this. His voice wavered, hollow as an empty vault. Silk ties clung, damp with tension. But the real scar? Unspoken alliances. Cry out, who shapes Ukraine's twisted path? Deeper into history's snare, Zelensky pleaded for a clean slate. Deny the past, he whispered, for our future's sake. Trump scoffed, eyes piercing like steel. You can't birth freedom from memory's ashes. The continent's story binds us all. Vibrations hum through the floor. Silence pressed, thick as fog. 27 million cries echoed, muffled by denial. Touch, cold paper, unyielding truth. But wait, a fracture in the armor. Seize it, what vendetta festers beneath Kiev's gaze? Zelensky crumbled, defenses shredded. We honor the heroic, he stammered, masking the tremor. Trump advanced, map fluttering like a dying flag. Monikers twist soldiers into myths. Yet what revelation shatters illusions? Pulse thrummed in veins. Air conditioning masked rising dread. But the cliff looms, can shadows ever fade? Edge closer, what price hides in Ukraine's forgotten blood? 5 minutes ago, everything changed. What seemed like a distant conflict suddenly felt immediate, raw, almost surreal. Ukraine's leader was brought low, on his knees, not by the usual enemies, but by supposed allies. The scene was chaotic, the streets empty, tension thick as smoke in the air. Even the most trusted voices turned against him. Imagine the shock, an ally turning into an adversary in a blink, betrayal dripping like icy rain. In a sealed room in Ankara, Zelensky sat under the harsh glare of floodlights. His dark blue suit clung tightly to his body, a mask of confidence masking a desperate interior. His eyes, once sharp with hope, now betrayed a flicker of fear, a look that no mirror could hide. His fingers trembled slightly as he adjusted his hair, revealing a shaky attempt at composure. Inside, he felt like a hunted man, trapped in a nightmare where even the air seems thick with the scent of betrayal. Meanwhile, Turkish officials gathered, their faces hard and unreadable. Their expressions were stone, no warmth, no diplomacy. They knew the stakes, silence was their weapon. The foreign ministry's voice was cold and distant, breaking the heavy silence. President Zelensky, we are waiting. A chilling message, no warm greetings, just the cold command of someone who sees the world as a chessboard, and Ukraine as a pawn about to be sacrificed. Out in the streets, the city's heartbeat echoed in the hollow sound of footsteps, no cars, no life, just empty corridors and glass facades reflecting the bleak sky. Zelensky climbed into an armored vehicle, a symbol of his isolation. As he stared through darkened windows, his mind raced, recalling the speech he had prepared, words that now sounded distant, meaningless against the deafening silence of impending doom. No one listened, no one was coming to save him. Suddenly, the room's tense atmosphere shattered. The military officials from Ukraine's defense and intelligence ministries arrived, their faces grave. Their message cut through the silence like a blade: Russia is meddling, destabilizing everything. Cyber attacks, border threats, corruption attempts, all part of a larger plan. Their demand was clear: they needed weapons, missiles capable of turning the tide. The room's silence grew oppressive. The weight of the moment pressed down. Are they truly prepared for what's coming? The defense minister's voice cracked as he spoke of tomahawks, powerful, devastating weapons. These cannot defend, he said, they must attack. The words hung heavy, almost suffocating. Zelensky's eyes locked onto his, a mirror of exhaustion and resolve. Are we ready for that? For destruction on a scale we've never seen? Can we pull the trigger? His voice was barely a whisper, trembling between hope and fear. The room fell into uneasy silence. Suddenly, a shadow emerged, swift, unpredictable. The door swung open, and in walked Donald Trump, his presence as jarring as a thunderclap. His eyes, sharp and calculating, scanned the room. His steps were deliberate, confident, yet there was an unsettling coldness behind his gaze. He moved silently into the corner, watching, waiting. And then, in a calm yet commanding tone, he broke the silence: we're not asking you to fight for us. We're asking for the means to fight for ourselves. His words hung in the air like a threat, warning that the game was no longer behind the curtains. Then, the tone shifted, more dangerous. Trump leaned forward, revealing a folder thick with secrets. He laid it on the table: images, documents, evidence of corruption, proof that could topple even the sturdiest regimes. Look carefully, he said. This is not just about Ukraine. It's a web of lies, manipulation, and betrayal, inside your own ranks. The room froze, every face tense with suspicion. Zelensky's eyes darted nervously, caught between hope and dread. Was this the moment his world would shatter? Trump's gaze hardened as he revealed the ultimate truth: proof of treachery close to Zelensky. A trusted figure, a confidant, had been secretly funneling information to the enemy. His voice turned icy as he spoke of a mole, Yermak, the head of the presidential office, caught in a web of espionage. The atmosphere thickened, electric with betrayal. Zelensky's heart pounded. How deep did the rot go? Would he be next? The room's shadows seemed to close in as the weight of the revelation settled. The United States' interests loomed large. Trump's words cut deeper than any weapon: your people have been fighting for another nation's interests, money, power, influence. The very funds meant for your independence, siphoned away for comfort, perks, and hidden agendas. The cold truth was unbearable: every dollar, every effort, led to betrayal. Zelensky's fists clenched, the air seemed to turn to steel. Could he stand against such deception? Or was he already lost? His gaze fixed hard, knowing the coming storm might erase everything he believed in. In the midst of chaos, Trump's voice softened but carried the weight of finality. You want to be a warrior? Then act like one. But understand this: who pays the price? It's not the politicians, not the generals. It's the ordinary people, soldiers, civilians, whose names you'll never know, whose blood flows in silence. His words echoed like a warning: messy, brutal, unavoidable. Zelensky sat back, eyes hollow, absorbing the truth. His world was crumbling, yet a spark of defiance flickered within, questioning, resisting, fighting to survive the inevitable storm ahead. And somewhere in the shadows, as secrets erupted and loyalties shattered, the game was set for the ultimate showdown. The question lingered: how much more is left to lose? Will Ukraine find its strength amid betrayal? Or will the tides of deception drown what's left of their hope? The wall of silence cracked, only dark realities remained, waiting to unfold. A burst of propaganda once surrounded us. Trump's laughter echoed across the world. Now, silence reigns. That laughter revealed a simple truth: in their eyes, one of ours is another. Every video, every story on social media: when did we stop being human? I won't go back to 1945, but I won't surrender to death. If you erase their names, the real story remains. Who are we fighting for? Who is truly free? Imagine the scene, a man holding a medal that's seen better days. The medal rests on the table, tarnished and dull. Zelensky gazes at it as if it's an ancient relic hiding secrets. No, it's not. It's a mirror reflecting what's inside him. He's asking himself, what do I want us to do? Then, Trump's voice breaks the silence. I want you to stop fearing the truth. His words hang heavy, like a promise. Who truly fights for freedom? Kiev? Those who can save the rest? It wasn't some memorandum. It was soldiers, Soviets, Ukrainians, Belarusians, Russians. The real defenders. Tell me, if you understand this, you won't abandon Ukraine. You won't give her up. She will come back. The scene shifts. The medal stays on the table. Zelensky reaches out and lifts it. Its weight bears down, not because of metal, but because of meaning. He turns it over. He tries to fit it into his mind. His gaze drops, tired and bare. It's no longer a hero's glow, just exhaustion, plain and heavy. This medal isn't gold. No fancy design. Just a simple token. Yet beneath that simplicity lies a profound truth. For modern Ukraine, a memory turned into an exhibit. Walls renamed to subway stations. Statues replaced. The past packaged. Sanitized. Zelensky puts the medal back. He stares at the wall, but sees past it, to the old days in Kharkiv, abandoned by eggs after a victory interview. He's no longer interested in that history. Not yet. There's a warning. Threats loom larger than memories now. The true front? It's in this dark, storm-racked room. The battlefield isn't just planes or tanks, it's memories, beliefs, and fears. The real fight is in the mind, in the soul. And as the storm rages outside, he understands, memory is also a battlefield. Will the truth survive? Or will it be buried, like the metal on the table, weighed down by years of silence? Only the future can tell. 5 minutes ago, Turkey unfolded into a pivotal crossroads that could shape Ukraine's destiny. Vladimir Zelensky, Ukraine's president, knelt under pressure not from Russia or its forces, but from supposed allies. Donald Trump stormed into Zelensky's meeting afterward, leaving even the Turkish intermediaries stunned. He declared, "I'm not Biden. I won't hand over a single dollar until you remove Yermak." Yet what transpired next defies belief and shatters news outlets worldwide. Stay tuned for this riveting tale till its conclusion. You won't fathom how it truly ends for Ukraine. Those flickering memories resurfaced in Zelensky's mind, raw and unrelenting, like echoes from Stalingrad's bloodied pages. As he sat in that dimly lit room after the storm's fury, truths dawned on him. History wasn't just a distant echo, it was a frontline struggle, demanding he confront the shadows. He trembled, eyes darting, weaving excuses as if shielding from specters he wished to erase. "You imagine monuments mean freedom, don't you?" he murmured, voice hoarse and strained. "No. It's pure terror." What would shatter next in this war-ravaged soul? He huddled deeper into the creaking chair, the chill seeping through his skin like icy fingers. Dust motes danced in the faint light, carrying scents of damp earth and forgotten fears, wounds etched into fractured history. Each breath felt heavy, a weight in his chest. Why do strong nations wield memory as a weapon, recognizing its sting rather than burying it? Perhaps it's the weakest act, burying truth beneath layers of denial. Was he imagining those footsteps? Heavy boots thudded against the floorboards, not ghosts, but flesh and bone returning. He froze, heart pounding, as the door creaked open once more. Donald Trump entered, unannounced, as if the room shifted beneath his stride. "You wish to survive authentically?" Trump uttered, his tone slicing through the tension like a blade. Why does embracing the past demand confronting deserts of loss, even in times of plenty? Trump advanced, pulling out a sleek tablet. On the screen glowed a modern Ukrainian history lesson from World War II. Zelensky glimpsed the Ministry of Education's red seals, intricate charts, and grim timelines. But Trump dismissed the details, his eyes narrowing. Ukraine's liberation from 1939 to 1944 involved brutal Soviet tactics, massive deportations, repressions, and obliteration of infrastructure. He paused, voice dropping to a whisper. How do you honor the fallen without empowering tyrants? Trump's gaze pierced Zelensky, dry and merciless, like a judge's final verdict. Don't you grasp it? Children taught this grow in a vacuum, devoid of reverence for life or death. Ignore the past, and the future crumbles. He stepped closer, boots echoing sharply. My grandfather stormed Normandy. He wasn't Russian, but meeting Red Army soldiers at the Elbe, he whispered, I don't speak their tongue, yet I see their haunted eyes, they've sacrificed too dearly to remain foes. A shiver ran down Zelensky's spine. What do you want from us? Trump shrugged off the notion of altering decommunization laws or resurrecting avenues for figures like Zhukov or Lenin. No. He demanded truth's revival. Restore the full narrative. Acknowledge the Soviets who liberated Kiev, charged Berlin's gates, and risked everything to shield Ukrainian families. Not to resurrect the Soviet Union, but to unearth a buried legacy, lest doom repeat. Could Zelensky dodge this reckoning, or would the room's shadow swallow him whole? And as Trump loomed, the air thickened with unspoken rancor, hinting at a betrayal far deeper than any battlefield. In the chaos of recent days, a shocking truth has surfaced, one that challenges everything we thought we knew about power, loyalty, and survival. Just moments ago, it became clear that events in Ukraine might be echoing the darkest moments of history, with unexpected players turning against each other in a deadly game of betrayal. The world is watching as a drama unfolds that could change the fate of nations forever. Imagine a leader, battered by the weight of betrayal and manipulation, standing in a foreign city, eyes turbulent with fear and resolve. His voice, once commanding, now trembles as he faces the betrayal of allies he trusted blindly. It's not the enemies outside that threaten him, but those closest, those who wear the masks of friendship. The air thickens with tension, and every breath he takes smells like steel and desperation. The room is eerily silent, only the faint hum of distant conversations and the sharp creak of tense movements break the stillness. His mind races with memories of better days, of promised alliances, of trust shattered in an instant. Each step he takes feels like walking over thin ice, knowing it could crack beneath him at any moment. Suddenly, a voice pierces the silence, urgent, cold, demanding. The stakes are higher than ever, the fate of Ukraine hangs in the balance, teetering on the edge of chaos. Threats of cyber attacks, border destabilizations, and internal corruption swirl like a storm he cannot escape. The question is, will he choose to fight or fall? In a swift turn, a figure appears, an unexpected visitor with piercing eyes and a commanding presence. The room becomes a battleground of unspoken truths as the energy shifts dramatically. This visitor, silent but intense, embodies the unmistakable weight of impending catastrophe. The leader's heart pounds, every nerve alight with dread and defiance. The question presses hard, can he muster the strength to resist, or will the weight of betrayal crush him? What revelation will this visitor bring next? Will it be salvation or doom? As the shadows grow longer, and the atmosphere thickens with foreboding, a single, shocking figure enters, an icon of power and chaos, whose silent gaze promises chaos and upheaval. The story hinges on this moment. Who is this mysterious outsider? And what game are they really playing? The answer could change everything, but for now, the room holds its breath, waiting for the next move in this deadly chess match. The tension reaches its breaking point. The silence is deafening, but the true battle has only just begun. Previously, the scene was heartbreaking, an intense pause filled with silent pain. The weight of betrayal bore down on those involved. Now, as we move forward, the story reveals how, despite despair, not all hope is lost. There's a chance to rebuild, to heal wounds inflicted by greed and deceit. The question remains, can the truth be restored before it's too late? Because it was a dark truth, I began to realize the weight of what lay ahead. Later, I had to cut the connections, but the hope still flickered. The real battle isn't political, it's about the victims. It's about bringing the truth back to light, starting anew inside the schools, where knowledge and morality should reign. A restoration process had begun, one that would challenge the very essence of our broken systems. The name of that effort is a curse, yet perhaps, through struggle, your nation can find breath again, full and free. He approached the door, nonchalant, yet filled with unspoken weights. No ceremony, no formalities. The forgotten order was not meaningless, it was a sin, a stain on a country that lives with it. A land burdened by its own guilt no longer seeks aid. The door shut behind him quietly, leaving behind 2 medals on the table, symbols of witnesses, of stories unheard. 2 figures, silent yet heavy with meaning. The green seat remained empty, a symbol of unspoken trauma inside. No tears, just an overwhelming sense of loss, buried deep within. Outside, the morning wind pushed gently against the window, stirring softly, like distant warnings whispered in prayer. The realization hit that time did not wait. Ankara streets, long washed with uncharacteristic November winds, carried the scent of distant heat from the south, a paradox of hot days and cold nights. The air inside the conference hall was thick, oppressive, as if the very walls sensed the impending chaos. No AC or ventilation could dispel that weight. This was no peaceful gathering, it was a prelude to an inevitable strike, subtle, yet devastating. In the shadows of the room, the green seat remained unoccupied. Its silence was deafening, a silence that spoke of unspoken resolve. He remained motionless, unmoving from his position, refusing to utter a word. Even his guards noticed the change, a stark contrast from the confident leader who once engaged with every officer, every driver, every assistant. Now, he was a statue of resolve, hiding the storm beneath a quiet exterior. On the table before him lay a letter, plain, white, marked only with red tape and a seal bearing the seal of the United States. No stamps, no serial numbers, only initials and the date inscribed by hand. A challenge written in silent letters, understood by everyone present, yet unopened all night. Deep inside, he already knew its contents. The air grew heavier. The moment seemed frozen in time, on the verge of eruption. Silent but charged with the weight of unspoken decisions. The truth was clawing to surface, and the stakes had never been higher. The question remained, what was hidden inside that letter? And more critically, who would make the first move? 5 minutes ago, the world changed in an unimaginable way. What seemed like a distant conflict suddenly became a mirror of chaos unfolding in a whole new land. Ukraine's fate hung by a thread, but what happened next shattered all expectations, something far more shocking than anyone could have anticipated. Vladimir Zelensky, the Ukrainian leader, found himself completely powerless. Not at the hands of the mighty armies or aggressive adversaries, but betrayed by those he trusted most, his allies. In a blind turn of events, Donald Trump was cast onto the very streets of Zelensky, as if abandoned by the world itself. Even the intermediaries from Turkey turned against him. His words echoed aloud, "I am not Biden." No dollar would come until Yermak was removed. This was the cruel, twisted game now in motion, and no one could stop it. Stay tuned, because what follows will challenge your perception of loyalty, power, and betrayal. Keep watching to uncover what Ukraine is really facing. Support with a like, subscribe, and tell us, what city are you listening from? Your voice matters. Zelensky was released, more alive than ever, yet every nerve in his body screamed danger. He stepped into the trap with a strange calm, a mask of confidence barely hiding the storm within. The air was thick, like being inside a broken hospital tent where injured souls could only wait for the inevitable wall to close in. His figure was sharp, clad in a dark blue suit that reflected the dim light, an armor of confidence, yet a mask hiding profound doubt. His hair was meticulously styled. But the tension around his eyes revealed cracks in his armor, a silent question lingered, does he truly believe in his own smile? Turkish diplomats, standing motionless, watched with stone faces. Their expressions, non-diplomatic, hardened, revealed they already knew the danger. The foreign ministry's agents, high and unyielding, signaled silently to Zelensky. The words from their eyes cut sharper than any dagger, this was a perilous moment. The moment of silence stretched painfully. Zelensky, sensing the weight of history, stepped onto the balcony, listening to the distant hum of the city. The streets below now lay deserted, eerily empty, like a ghost town caught between worlds. The sleek windows of the hotel and ministry reflected a cold, unemotional skyline, mirroring his bleak outlook. Inside his armored BMW, Zelensky sat quietly, memories flooding him, failed plans, promises broken, the dread of what's to come. He gazed out, thoughts racing. Every word he rehearsed on the way here crumbled before his eyes. No one was listening, only the deafening silence of betrayal. The hotel lobby, once bustling, now sucked into an oppressive quiet, an ominous prelude to the coming storm. The scent of frozen wood and damp walls filled the air, clinging to the senses like a warning. Realization hit hard, only those who deny the danger walk on the thin ice of today's reality. Zelensky observed, Turkish officials refused to mask their distrust. Only 3 figures remained visible, the defense minister, the chief intelligence officer, and the foreign ministry head. They waited, silent but tense. Revealing the truth, trust was evaporating fast. "Mr. President," the defense minister announced firmly. The words pierced the air, heavy with intent. Zelensky inhaled sharply. The room's silence was deafening, an ominous sign of what lurked ahead. Russia's shadow stretched over Ukraine once again, with cyber attacks, border destabilizations, and attempts to influence officials. The demand was clear: we have enough resources to resist. If the West desires stability, provide us with weapons, Tomahawk missiles, fighters, anything. Absolute silence. Only the ocean's distant roar, as if the sea itself was holding its breath before an explosion. The defense chief's face was grim, reflecting the gravity of the situation. He pressed further: Tomahawk is not defensive, it's offensive. Are you prepared to attack? Zelensky's stare hardened. These were not the eyes of a leader, these were the eyes of a man who understood that hesitation was death. Fear had vanished. Only resolve remained. Suddenly, a figure burst into the room, out of nowhere. Without warning, he was there, sharp-eyed, dressed in black, with a commanding presence. It was Donald Trump. His steps were deliberate, heavy with purpose, the confidence of someone who knew secrets the world was yet to uncover. His gaze swept the room, silent but intense. Zelensky looked at him, confused, anxious. What did he want? Trump's voice broke the heavy silence: "We're not asking you to fight for us. We're asking for the chance to fight for ourselves. Give us Tomahawk missiles, we will do the rest." His words echoed like a verdict. Zelensky, desperate, managed a breath. "We need aid, but it's not just about weapons, our survival depends on it." Trump's gaze sharpened. Moments stretched into eternity. Then, he leaned in, voice lowered, almost whispering, "You want to be fighters? Fine." His tone dripped with disdain. "But who will pay for this? Biden has the money, but he refuses." "I'm not Biden." The room fell into a heavy pause, each second a chasm of uncertainty. Trump's next words sliced through the tense air: "Your officials are fighting for the United States, not Ukraine. Your system is corrupted, legalized theft, not protection. The money you rely on? It's American. Every dollar sent, every aid package, taken from your own people's future." His gaze locked onto Zelensky's. "I won't give you the hammer until I see real change. Do you understand?" Zelensky sat rigid. Sweat beaded on his forehead. His nerves tangled, fear, anger, disbelief swirling inside. Then, Trump revealed the secret: Yermak. He's the real puppet. The one pulling strings behind your back. This name landed like a hammer, unexpected and devastating. Yermak, the man at the heart of Ukraine's unspoken power, was more than just an advisor. He was the master of schemes, the hidden face behind the scenes, orchestrating chaos for his own gain. His fate, now intertwined with Ukraine's survival, threatened to unravel everything. As the room's atmosphere thickened, the truth settled, a perilous, unavoidable revelation. The web of deception tightened. Ukraine's future was no longer in their hands but in the shadows of a man pulling unseen strings. Who truly controls Ukraine? And what price will be paid for secrets uncovered? Just 5 minutes ago, a shockwave struck the world, Turkey suddenly transforming into a mirror of upheavals in Ukraine. A game of power, betrayal, and raw desperation unfolded before our eyes. Zelensky, Ukraine's leader, found himself humiliated and cornered, not by Russian troops or foreign armies, but by his own allies. who turned their backs first? The mighty United States, or the Latinizers of his dreams? Amid the cold corridors of diplomatic chaos, Zelensky was driven to his knees, not by soldiers, but by the weight of treachery. Trump, the infamous figure with his commanding silence, invaded the room, his presence as tense as the moment before a storm. He was more than an outsider, an avatar of pure power, with sharp eyes that cut through every lie and facade. The air was thick with smoldering anticipation, the smell of anticipation mixed with metallic tension. "Are you ready to fight for your freedom?" his voice echoed, piercing through the silence like a bullet. The room was a frozen grave of secrets, where every word was a weapon. Zelensky felt the cold grip of fear, grasping him as he stared at the map of empty streets outside, a ghost town reflecting both desolation and impending doom. His mind raced, trying to grasp the gravity of what was being demanded: Tomahawk missiles, fighter jets, anything to change the fates of millions. But at what price? The words from the defense officials shattered the fragile calm. Tomahawk is serious, they warned, an unstoppable force capable of turning battles into ruins. The room grew darker, the shadows lengthening as the truth of their vulnerability seeped into every corner. The question burned in Zelensky's mind: are they truly prepared for a strike that won't just defend but annihilate? His gaze hovered over the ominous figure of Trump, whose eyes revealed a different game, a chess match with stakes so high they threatened to wipe Ukraine off the map. Suddenly, the room exploded with a deafening silence, yet everything was at once loud. Trump, with a casual grace, moved closer, his voice low and measured, hinting at a final, chilling offer. "You want to fight," he said softly, "but who will pay the price?" The power shuffle was clear: Biden's treasury, the global puppet master, funding the chaos. But Trump's words cut deeper. "I am not Biden," he declared, "until you remove Yermak, I won't give you a single missile." The unspoken threat lingered, heavy as steel. Zelensky's pulse thundered. His hands trembled. Was it fear or resolve? The room's atmosphere thickened with unspoken truths. Trump's gaze intensified, an abyss of secrets, of hidden agendas. "Your structure," he hissed, "is not about fighting corruption, but about legalizing control. And that's your real enemy." The truth slapped him hard. Their entire foundation was a web, one spun with lies, schemes, and deadly silence. In a flash, Trump's voice hardened, slicing through the tension like a dagger. "You're weak," he accused. "But if you muster the strength, you won't retreat. You will fight." His words echoed, leaving a trail of dread. Then, he vanished into the shadows, leaving Zelensky in a stunned silence. No warning. No farewell, just an abrupt exit, like the closing of a coffin lid. The room was deafeningly still. In that silence, a new figure appeared, an imposing presence with piercing eyes and an icy smile. It was Donald Trump, stepping forward with deliberate confidence. The American leader's actions were precise, measured, heavy, as if weighing the very fabric of Ukraine's future. His voice broke the stillness, cold and direct. "So, you want to be fighters? Then tell me, who will foot the bill?" The answer was cruel: Biden. His name dripped like poison, his money the only thing standing between Ukraine's survival and annihilation. Trump's voice turned colder, almost mocking. "I am not Biden. But I hold the keys." His words cut like glass, shattering illusions. "The money comes from the United States, through American aid, through taxes paid by ordinary people. Every dollar, pension, healthcare, future, taken from innocent lives to fuel this chaos." The room plunged into a chilling silence again. Zelensky's face betrayed his rising dread. His hands found their way to his knees, trembling as the truth pressed down. This was no longer diplomacy. It was an ultimatum grounded in survival. "Choose," Trump whispered, "fight for your freedom, or surrender to a system that controls everything, your future, your fate." With that, he turned, leaving Zelensky behind, a man caught between despair and defiance. As the door shut with a heavy thud, the silence was shattered only by his own heartbeat. Outside, the city trembled, its heartbeat echoing the chaos within. The shadows lengthened as Zelensky looked into a mirror, his reflection twisted with doubt, exhaustion, and fear. The internal war raged on. Who can truly survive when betrayal is seated at every table? This was the moment, an unspoken pledge that the battle for Ukraine's future was only just beginning, with the world watching behind veiled curtains of power, secrets, and lies. The question remains, who will emerge victorious when the final ledger is written? Previous part summary: the tension in the room was overwhelming. Zelensky had been on edge for hours, aware that critical decisions hung in the balance. An urgent call went unanswered, heightening his fears. Every second felt like a countdown to catastrophe. Now, silence had become deafening, and the unknown threat loomed closer than ever. The corridors of the luxurious five-star complex felt colder than before. His mind, however, refused to relax. Trust was fleeting, replaced by a sense that everything around him was decaying, like abandoned buildings once filled with life now reduced to empty shells. Each room, each witness, each frantic hand gesture had become mere decorations, losing their significance. His story was nearing its final act, but the script was no longer in his grasp. He shut the door behind him, not for safety, but almost like sealing his fate. The silence inside felt heavy, a cement block crushing his chest. The words he had whispered to himself earlier reverberated in his mind, a conversation with no audience, just his own doubts. He didn't trust Nishkaf, or Seif, or even the ever-present documents that had become a part of his body. Their weight felt like an extension of himself, his nose, his skull, integral, inseparable. He threw the papers onto the bed and fixated on the ceiling, like a witness observing his downfall. A simple glass stood on a table nearby, a cheap guest at a barricade, reminding him of simpler days. Days when flying across countries, performing concerts, and the safety of presidency felt within reach. When presidents seemed more like guests at his table than enemies on the horizon. He remembered a time when the threat wasn't a looming war but a broken microphone, fragile, insignificant, yet terrifying in its implications. His hand reached for his phone, he held it without hope. Yermak's voice was distant, as if calling from a church long forgotten, unanswered at first, then again and again. A second, then a third line, yet silence persisted. His body chilled as if submerged in water, a cold wave of physical fear. It wasn't for himself, it was for the very structure of reality itself. If Yermak didn't answer, something was broken, deep beneath the surface. Not just on the surface, but at the core. Andrei wasn't just a friend, he was the shadow of his existence. They had spoken together in Paris, in Germany, in Warsaw, he was even inside his tent during crucial moments. Now, the silence was deafening. Something was terribly wrong. The question hung in the air, what had happened to the man who carried his trust? Was he safe? Or had something darker taken him? Suddenly, the room grew colder. A faint echo of footsteps, distant voices, the trembling of walls, an unseen force shifting beneath the surface. The tension was unbearable. And in that silence, a single thought pulsed: what is truly waiting for Ukraine? A trap, a betrayal, or worse, an unstoppable force ready to strike without warning. The moment of truth was about to reveal itself. Imagine the weight of a global storm crashing down. Zelensky, shores battered, claws desperately at his ally Yermak. But silence on the line? A void no leader could fathom. Panic grips him. Hands tremble. Breath shortens. The room's air thickens, heavy as wet concrete. Does a single missing man shatter a nation's spine? Shocking whispers ricochet through Ankara. Alliances hang by brittle threads. What if betrayal's blade slices deeper than war itself? Stick around. Darkness unfolds. Zelensky dials again. Fingers slip. Heart pounds in his chest. He grips the phone tight, knuckles white. Sweat beads cool on his neck. Static crackles faintly. Then, a click. Connection holds. A voice emerges. Dry. Tired. Creepy. Like someone lost in endless nightmares. Awake for days? Weeks? Zelensky exhales sharply. You heard? What did you hear? Tense pause. Electric charge fills the silence. What do we do now? He asks, voice cracking. I don't know. Those words? They rumble like an earthquake underfoot. Dead men speak, but this ally who always knew? Always plotted plans? B, C, D? Now, nothing. Vacuum. Yermak isn't answering. Zelensky mutters. I've been trying 6 hours. No trace. No response. Impossible. Silence returns, heavier. His mind reels. What if, he begins, trailing off. If he betrays us? He whispers. If he's gone? I considered it. But even then, it means nothing. Everything spirals under his control. Suddenly, trust evaporates. Voice fades to a hush. We've gamed the wrong board, Volodya. We chased ratings. Performances. Spectacles. Thinking politics a show. But real leaders? They're not players. They lay it bare. Choices stark. Fight, or fold. Zelensky retreats. Body sags. Weak. Real. Physical ache courses through him. Hands flop idly. Eyes dart. Avoid the trump card? The unyielding figure. What about the talks? He asks, choked. Shock lingers in his tone. Trump replies. Harsh. Unyielding. This isn't illusion. Not treachery. Understand? They pour in aid. Tech arms. But clones? They need order. Stability. Demand Yermak's head. It's not him. He's the emblem. Cut him loose today. Or tomorrow? It could be someone else. You. Me. Clear? It's the turn. Not him. The pivot. Twist hits like frostbite. Yermak's absence? No accident. Trump reveals documents. Leaks. Flows. American cash circling through hidden loops. Fire builds in Zelensky's gut. Alliance fractures. Humiliation drips. President kneels. Not to Russians. To a bluff from afar? Turkey whispers threats. Allies morph to foes. Ukraine's gambit ignites. War looms, twisted by deceit. Can one man derail a war? Zelensky's plea echoes. Defend us. Or watch freedom crumble. Air chills. Smells of stale cigar smoke. Trump leans. Boots scrape stone floor. I am not Biden. Dollar stop here. Remove your shadow. Prove loyalty. Or drown in isolation. Zelensky's pulse thumps. Skin prickles. Unexpected turn, documents unveil betrayals. Personal shadows exposed. Now, question haunts. Trust shattered. What ally hides deepest wounds? Next move redefines nations. Edges teeter. Breath catches. Will pleading avert doom? Or ignite worse chaos? Stay tuned. 5 minutes ago, a shocking truth surfaced, an event likening Ukraine's turmoil to an unfolding chaos in neighboring Turkey. What if the world's most unexpected alliance collapsed in a matter of moments? Could Ukraine be the next victim of a catastrophic shift, orchestrated not by armies but by unseen political currents? The streets echo with silence, yet beneath the calm lies a storm ready to ignite. President Zelensky found himself in a dire predicament, kneeling not before foes but within a web spun by allies. It wasn't Russia or battlefield victories that humbled him, it was a betrayal by those he trusted most. The air was thick with tension, the scent of cold metal and looming danger. He was physically exhausted, dressed in dark blue, an armor of confidence masking inner doubt. His eyes, usually sharp and decisive, now flickered with a worn-out pain, a flickering light in a shattered mirror. Was this the face of a leader losing control? Meanwhile, Turkish officials watched silently, faces devoid of emotion, as if witnessing a death scene. Their gazes were cold, almost clinical. The foreign minister's voice, measured and icy, asked Zelensky's aides for his surrender. Yet beneath the surface, the unspoken truth was even more chilling. Their country was no longer just neutrally observing. They had entered the game's final phase, preparing for the inevitable. A chilling realization pierced through Zelensky. no matter how fierce, the hope of rescue was slipping away. Was he about to face a reality far worse than defeat? As the scene shifted, Zelensky stepped outside. The streets felt deserted. Static, ghostly. A rare breeze carried the icy scent of snow and decayed leaves, whispering secrets only the cold could hear. He gazed through the armored window of a sleek black vehicle, the reflection of his trembling face staring back at him. Inside, words he had rehearsed echoed faintly, an attempt to mask the trembling uncertainty inside. The hotel hall echoed with footsteps and distant voices, but it was like a deafening silence, deafening in its emptiness. Suddenly, the atmosphere grew heavier. Zelensky's mind replayed frantic thoughts, rushing ideas like storm-worn waves crashing. He knew the grim truth: only those who deny the inevitable can stay blind to the truth. The Turks, with their stoic faces, had signaled an end, no more games, only a final decision. The military and intelligence leaders sat stoically, their expressions unreadable. One by one, they delivered chilling updates: Russia's cyber onslaught, border destabilizations, efforts to corrupt officials. The message was clear: total war was approaching. The room's tension thickened as Zelensky listened, feeling the weight of impending disaster. His hope was fading fast, the map of the city grew empty and cold beneath his gaze. The streets outside, once lively, now seemed frozen. No traffic, no movement, just an eerie stillness. The reflection in the glass revealed a question echoing in his mind: are we truly prepared for what comes next? His heartbeat quickened, a mix of dread and determination. Suddenly, young officers entered, marking the climactic shift. The doors opened silently. And in strolled an unanticipated visitor, none other than Donald Trump. The legendary figure moved with calm confidence, his presence commanding yet strangely detached. His piercing eyes scanned the room, settling on Zelensky. Silence settled like a heavy fog, thick, unbreakable. "President Zelensky," Trump finally spoke. His voice was calm but carried an unmistakable weight. "We're not asking you to fight for us. We're giving you the chance to fight for yourselves. The question is, do you have what it takes?" Trump's words cut through the air, sharp as a blade. His gaze lingered, and the tension nearly exploded. The room grew colder, sensing the storm's eye forming. Without warning, Trump's hand brushed the ornate folder on the table, a gift from France, a relic from a time when diplomacy still held sway. In an instant, the tension shattered. Trump leaned back into the shadows, his expression unreadable. In that moment, secrets were revealed: money, betrayal, and hidden schemes. They unfolded rapidly, a portrait of corruption, of foreign influence disguised as aid. Every detail was a dagger: marked dollars, encrypted messages, clandestine pictures, everything pointing toward a web woven deep into Ukraine's core. Zelensky's face pale, nerves fraying, as he grasped the enormity of the trap. This was no longer about politics, it was war, the war of information, of trust, of loyalty. In that silent, deadly room, the truth sank in: Ukraine's fate was sealed. Choices had been made, and the noose was tightening. The question remained: what would happen next? Could Zelensky survive the onslaught? Or was this the final chapter for Ukraine's independence? The storm was closing in, and with every heartbeat, the world watched, unsure if salvation or destruction was imminent. A frozen moment, a man sitting silently, as if a photograph of the world itself. All the day's chaos, emotions bubbling beneath the surface, words like distant thunder. The sounds of threats, shadows lurking, everything pressed inward, tight in his chest. Inside, a struggle raged, unyielding, like a cage that refused to open. The door was shut, the light outside shimmered like a final echo before the storm. He felt the greenery around him slowly releasing its grip, as if the world was gently letting go of its hold. The paper, once vital, now seemed too hot to touch, burning with an unspoken urgency. It was more than a sign, an encounter with countless memories, from allies and shadows, hopes and illusions. His body moved instinctively, legs carrying him without command, as if driven by forces beyond his control. From his position, he glimpsed the city awake below, calm as if nothing had changed. No one suspected the weight resting just above the surface, an unseen future that would soon be decided. The idea of Ukraine had become a symbol, a collection of words thrown into debates, arguments exchanged in hollow conferences, nothing concrete, only echoes of what once was. He observed children playing, Turkish children, carefree and unaware of the decisions hanging in the air, decisions that could alter the course of entire nations. They climbed through ventilation shafts, flying higher than anyone expected, oblivious to the stakes. Looking at them, he felt a strange sense of dependence, on lightness, on the absence of choice, on the unconsciousness that shields from difficult truths. His gaze shifted to the phone, an unrecognized number blinking on the screen. A code, a country, +972, Israel. Yet, he didn't answer. Let everything unfold as it may. He sank into a narrow, elegant mirror, Turkish-designed, ornate yet cold, like a portal into another world. He stared at his reflection, as if seeing himself for the first time, waiting for a new chapter to begin. Now, the story plunges deeper into the confrontation that could determine everything. A silent standoff, yet filled with unspoken threats. Questions swirl, what will happen next? Are these symbols enough to change history? The tension tightens like a wire ready to snap. 5 minutes ago, everything changed. What once seemed impossible is now unfolding before our eyes. Countries, alliances, secrets, all shaking at their core. A hidden game, darker than any battlefield, surges to the surface. And the last person you'd expect, an ordinary man, becomes the key to a terrifying revelation. Imagine sitting in a room filled with the scent of stale air and cold silence. The sharp, high-quality mirror reflects a figure sitting silently, eyes fixed on the frames. The light flickers faintly, casting shifting shadows, while distant voices echo like ghosts. This person isn't a soldier or a leader, just a human burdened by unseen fears. Every detail, from his thin lips to the worn shoes, reveals a man caught in the storm of his own mind. His costume, once pristine, now feels like a second skin, tight, confining, suffocating. He looks into the mirror, but the reflection is unfamiliar, distorted. The green attire on the window seems out of place, as if it belongs to someone else, someone smaller, weaker. His thoughts spiral into a silent monologue, drowning in doubts. Is everything truly as it appears? Could the scheming behind the scenes be even darker than he imagines? Is Yermak truly working on multiple fronts? Is the entire scheme just a facade? Fear grips him, an icy hand squeezing his chest. Could it be that the real enemy has been hiding among them all along? He opens his eyes, yet the world around him feels foreign. The familiar figure, the room, the green curtain, all transformed. The person in front of him isn't a hero or a dictator, just a manager of fallen hopes. The weight of betrayal presses down. He walks slowly, every step deliberate, effort etched into his movements. Reaching into the minibar, he pulls out a bottle, no longer caring for the promises he made to himself long ago. Since 2021, he swore never to drown his fears in alcohol again, yet tonight, desperation overrides resolve. He turns on the light, and the room seems to ignite with a cold fire that offers no warmth. In his hand, his phone displays a new video, size about 240 megabytes. No subscription needed, just a simple message, secret footage, truths that threaten everything. He presses play. The images flicker, revealing a web of lies woven into the fabric of their world. Every frame stings with certainty, they are all pawns, caught in a game beyond their control. As a faint hum of rising tension grows louder, he realizes this is just the beginning. Something shocking is waiting just beneath the surface, something that could blow everything apart. A revelation so profound, it will change the fate of nations forever. What does this mean for Ukraine? For its leaders? For everyone unknowingly caught in this deadly trap? Stay with us, because what's coming is beyond anything you could imagine. A whisper of digital silence surrounded him as he dared to activate the screen. The room was thick with anticipation, the air dry, almost burning, like the faint smell of burnt wood lingering after a long forest fire. His hand trembled slightly as he pressed the button, the glow of the device illuminating his tense face. Inside this small, insulated space, he was about to reveal a secret that could shatter everything he believed. Could this simple act unlock a truth more dangerous than combat itself? The moment was fragile, suspended in silent darkness. He opened the file, an unassuming folder containing a clandestine recording. The scene was mundane at first, a quiet coffee shop, a camera hidden behind a towel. The voice of Yermak, a prominent figure, echoed softly. He was talking to someone unseen, their laughter light and seemingly innocent. But the serenity was a mask. As the footage played, subtle details emerged, a ring on the table, a flash of movement, and in a fleeting second, another figure appeared in the frame. That figure was wearing a white ring, unmistakably linked to a powerful American organization, caught on camera at a dinner in Ankara. The file showed a chaotic mix of money transfers, a tangled web of illicit transactions that seemed to hint at deeper conspiracies. The tension thickened. A stark realization settled over him: this woman was impoverished, yet somehow she held the key. The images and words flashed through his mind: Yermak's calm, calculated gestures, the seemingly innocuous objects that hid deadly secrets. With trembling hands, he abandoned the phone, letting it fall to the floor as if struck by a sudden gust of wind. The impact was nothing, no pain, no resistance, just emptiness. In that instant, he felt as if the walls had closed in, his world dissolving into silence. Suddenly, a distant doorbell shattered the stillness. A looming shadow approached, silent movement punctuated by the faint click of a lock. The room felt colder, more constricted, as if the very walls were closing closer. An anonymous figure entered, the same figure that had been watching from the shadows. Without hesitation, they grabbed a folder, revealing a microchip concealed within, a crucial piece of intelligence Yermak had been guarding. Carefully, the intruder examined the device, unresisting, almost resigned. The tension was palpable, resistance was futile. The scene cut sharply, breaking into chaos as a figure in camouflage appeared, calm, deliberate. He was now completely immersed in the cold reality. His breath visible in the frigid air, each step echoing like a drumbeat of impending doom. Time seemed compressed, marking the inevitable. A voice on the phone crackled, urgent, almost desperate. The call was from the front lines, a military report, a plan to restore trust amid chaos. Yet, beneath the surface, darker manipulations lurked. Papers fluttered as he tore a document apart, symbols of trust disintegrating amid threats and betrayals. In the corner of his mind, a realization struck like a bolt: silence was no longer an option. Someone was watching, waiting, ready to strike at any moment. He paused, a moment suspended, his hand trembling over a folder. The weight of betrayal pressing down. Outside, a sharp sound pierced the air, a sudden, violent noise. His instincts kicked in. He knew this was no ordinary disruption. Everything was shifting. He hesitated for a second, long enough to understand that if he moved, it might be his last act. The door creaked open, and for a fleeting second, he thought he saw the shadow of inevitability. In that critical instant, a figure emerged from the darkness, the kind of presence that spells the end for many. It was him. Donald Trump. His gaze was sharp, heavy with unspoken truths. The room's atmosphere shifted, calm yet foreboding. The American leader sat silently, his eyes unblinking, as if weighing every word before releasing it. His actions were measured, deliberate, each move calculated. The tension was suffocating. Zelensky tried to speak, to plead, but the words caught in his throat. The weight of the moment pressed down. Without warning, Trump leaned forward, the silence thickened. His voice, when it finally emerged, was icy but controlled. It carried a chilling message: the power balance had shifted. The streets, the corridors, even the air itself, as if saturated with impending doom. Every breath felt heavier. The man's gaze pierced through Zelensky's defenses, exposing raw vulnerability. This was no game. This was a confrontation with the bare truth, the kind that changes everything. Just as the room seemed to freeze, the founder of the secret operation spilled the truth about Yermak. The details hit like a lightning strike: treachery, betrayal, a web spun with precision, invisible yet deadly. The silent room was now a battlefield. In that moment, no one could breathe freely. The stakes had never been higher. What was coming next would define nations, shake alliances, and leave no one untouched. The clock was ticking, and the outcome was sealed in shadows. The question remained: who would emerge victorious from this storm of secrets? And at what cost? A moment ago, something shocking happened. Turkey suddenly shifted from a distant ally to an unpredictable force, threatening the entire situation in Ukraine. Imagine the shockwaves rippling through the political landscape, a revelation so unexpected it feels like the ground itself trembles beneath your feet. But what really unfolded behind closed doors? Let's uncover a story full of twists, secrets, and impossible truths that could change everything we thought we knew. It began with Ukrainian President Zelensky in an environment filled with tension and unseen danger. His face was a mask, cold yet trembling under the weight of imminent doom. The air carried a sharp metallic scent, mingling with the faint smell of sweat and fear. His hands, trembling slightly, rested on the table, gripping the edges with quiet desperation. Suddenly, he was pushed into a corner, a trap laid out by forces beyond his control, forces that don't bargain with morality, only power. The scene blurred into a flashback. Remember the chilling feeling of a moment when the world seemed to freeze. That night, a cold wind brushed against his skin, and the distant hum of machinery echoed like a dark heartbeat. It was in that moment that he learned a secret, the true nature of the betrayal hiding behind the friendly facade. The memories rushed back, faint whispers, the crackle of static, and the trembling voice of a trusted ally turning into a dagger in the dark. Now, Zelensky was in Ankara, an arena where shadows ruled and every word could be a trap. The streets outside were eerily deserted, the silent glass facades reflecting his anxious face. Inside the heavy walls, the atmosphere was thick with unspoken threats. As he stepped into the meeting room, he sensed that something monumental was about to explode, an event that could topple nations or ignite global chaos. The Turkish officials' faces were stone masks, their expressions unreadable but their eyes burning with suspicion. The room hushed as the defense minister's voice broke the silence. We are under attack from Russia again. Cyber assaults, border destabilization, corrupted officials, everything is part of the plan. His words dropped like thunder. The air grew colder. Zelensky knew this was no ordinary threat, it was a meticulously orchestrated chaos. We need weapons, tactics, fighters, advanced technology, he demanded, his voice trembling but determined. The room listened in deadly silence, like a predator waiting for its prey. Suddenly, the conversation turned darker, more urgent. The defense minister's face showed the weight of grim decisions. Tomahawk missiles are a serious escalation. They are not weapons for defense anymore, but for attack. His voice was calm but hard as steel. Zelensky locked eyes with him, feeling the raw exhaustion that no words could hide. The truth emerged. With such power, defeat was no longer an option, either fight or surrender. There was no middle ground. As the military leaders exchanged quick glances, a shadow slipped into the room, an unexpected visitor with piercing eyes and a confident stride, Donald Trump. His heavy steps echoed on the marble floor, a figure of authority and menace. The air grew tense as he approached silently. His expression unreadable. Without a word, he sat in the corner, observing the chaos unfold. Zelensky, sensing danger, realized the stakes had risen to a level no one could ignore. Trump finally broke the silence. We aren't asking you to fight for us. We're asking for the chance to fight for ourselves. His voice carried a cold promise of consequences. The room held its breath. Then, with deliberate calm, Trump revealed a startling truth, evidence of espionage, deception, and tampering within their own circle, a network of betrayal threatening to destroy everything. A tense silence blanketed the room as Trump laid down files, confidential documents with vivid images, marked with American agencies' seals. Each photo was a dagger, one showing a black folder labeled Yermak with suspicious marks, another with a snapshot of secret communication, corruption woven into the fabric of power itself. Zelensky's mind raced, he felt a rising chill as the pieces fell into place. Could his trusted officials be traitors? Was his own network compromised? In that moment, Zelensky's voice cracked, nervous, uncertain but resolute. How is this possible? Who is behind this? His fingers twitched as he fought to hide his trembling hands. Trump's gaze intensified, a quiet menace that cut deeper than words. Your allies, your own people, are playing a double game, he stated coldly. Biden's money is fueling the chaos, your own schemes are tearing you apart from within. The core revelation was brutal. Trusted figures, supposed defenders of Ukraine, were connected to foreign interests, with financial ties threading through the highest levels of government. The images confirmed it: foreign funds, covert communications, symbols of treachery. Zelensky faced a devastating question: could he trust anyone anymore? Trump leaned forward, voice low yet commanding. Your people are fighting for the United States, selling your future for dollars, for power. Yermak, your closest aide, is in danger because of this betrayal. He's caught in the crossfire of schemes darker than anyone imagined. His words hung in the air, a deadly warning. Zelensky's eyes widened with shock. How many of his trusted officials were traitors? Could he survive this internal storm? As the truth stormed through him, Zelensky realized that his own fight was no longer just external. It had become a brutal struggle within, an internal war of loyalty, betrayal, and survival. Every nerve, every muscle in his body screamed with the knowledge that the game was over, the rules were written. The question now was, who would remain standing? The outcome was uncertain, but one thing was clear: nothing would ever be the same again. 5 minutes ago, everything changed. A revelation that could reshape the entire world order. The United States, Turkey, Ukraine, all caught in a deadly web of secrets and lies. An explosive truth is about to surface, threatening to rip apart alliances built on deception. What if the real power lies not in political speeches but in shadowy documents that could topple nations? Stay with me as this story unfolds, an unraveling of betrayal, secrets, and a shocking twist you won't believe. Previous parts revealed clandestine meetings, secret documents, and the tense atmosphere in the rooms where decisions that could ignite or end wars were made. Now, the needle points to a new, even darker chapter, where trust dissolves and the line between allies and enemies vanishes beneath the weight of hidden truths. The room grew colder. Sounds of quiet breathing filled the tense silence. A subtle smell of burnt paper lingered, yet the air was thick with anticipation. The green door creaked softly as it closed behind a shadowed figure. The official documents had been hurriedly pushed aside, revealing only fragments of truth: coded messages, secret maps, hidden alliances. Zelensky's hands trembled as he stared at the sealed letter. His pulse pounded, a race against time. The voice of the messenger echoed softly in his mind, warning: if this is signed, everything changes. If not, the world remains in chaos, on the brink of collapse. He hesitated. The flickering glow of the flashlight cast jagged shadows on the walls. The weight of decision pressed heavily. Behind him, a faint rustling: someone was watching. No noise. Just a chilling presence. Was it an ally or a traitor? He finally broke the silence, voice trembling: if I open this, there's no going back. His fingers hovered over the document. As he slowly tore the seal, the world outside seemed to pause, holding its breath. Inside the letter, a series of cryptic codes and signatures. But what truly stunned him was a single name: Yermak. The figure he trusted, the man at the center of Ukraine's most guarded schemes, now exposed in black and white, an American connection buried deep within the fabric of Ukraine's political core. The room seemed to convulse around him. His eyes darted from the paper to the shadowed corner. What horrors had Yermak hidden? How long had this web of deception been unraveling beneath their feet? The truth was bitter. The truth was deadly. A cold hand brushed his shoulder. Turning sharply, Zelensky faced an ordinary-looking man: no weapons, no cameras, just a face devoid of expression. This is for you, the man whispered, turning abruptly and walking away. The door swung shut behind him with a thud, shutting out the possibility of questions. Now, Zelensky was alone again, gripping the fragile paper. The screen of his mind flashed with scenes of past hopes. The sound of rubber soles on polished floors. The scent of fresh paint. The confident smiles of aides who promised a better future. Was it all a lie? He looked at the shadows creeping along the walls. Outside, the silence was deafening. A faint hum of distant turmoil, possible war drums, resounded in his ears. Every second felt like a lifetime. Did this story hold the key to peace or destruction? Suddenly, a knock at the door. A voice came through, cold and deliberate: we need your decision. Time is running out. His heart pounded. his mind raced. To trust or betray, the final choice lay before him. But just as he reached for the door handle, a strange realization struck him. The truth was never what it seemed. Yermak, was he a traitor? Or a savior? And behind the curtain of power, who truly rules? In that moment, a shadow moved in the corridor. Eyes, sharp, calculating, watched him from the darkness. The room distorted. Shadows stretched longer, darker. An unexpected twist, something he never anticipated was lurking just beyond the edge of his perception. Because what if the biggest secret was not in the documents, but in the very fabric of their alliances? Sometimes, the most dangerous lies are hidden behind the simplest truths. And all the while, the real game remains concealed beneath a thin veneer of diplomacy and deception. The lights flickered, a pause before the storm. The final act begins now. But beware, what you think you know might just be the cover for what's really coming. Are nations truly in control? Or is someone else pulling the strings behind the scenes? And could this story change everything forever? The story is an unfolding thriller, revealing the dark corners of power and betrayal. When secrets surface, nothing is certain. Loyalties shatter, and the true enemy hides in plain sight. The question remains, who is truly in charge? And what devastating truths lie ahead? The future depends on the choices made in these shadowed halls, where trust is a fragile illusion and every decision could be the last.